Welcome back to Not My Fantasy, the show where we talk about what is your slogan? I forgot. What is it? Welcome back to Not My Fantasy, the show where we watch and discuss the lore behind our favorite and least favorite fantasy films. I'm Cullen.
And I'm Hannah.
And I wanted Allyssa to be the next person to go in my brain because Allyssa from Glee Boot is back.
Hi!
Yay! Another returning guest.
Another returning guest for our episode 16.
Oh my gosh. What? 16?
Yeah.
Holy crap. Wow.
Yeah. Allyssa really wanted to talk about this movie.
Yes, I did.
Which is funny because I don't think me and Allyssa have watched this movie together, but we have talked about this movie several times.
Yes.
Because we both love this movie.
Yes. I was trying to figure out when I first watched this movie, and I say first because if you are old enough, you might remember.
You muted.
Yeah, you went on. You said you might remember.
You might remember the silence.
Video rental store.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Yes. And we used to go about once a week or maybe like once every 2 weeks, and I would rent this movie every time.
The Swearingen account is just The Last Unicorn, some video game for your brother, a nice
It was in the
flick.
kids free section.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I mean, I understand why it was free.
Yeah.
Like, we can't expect anyone to pay for this.
That's. I mean, I won't take that personally because
don't take it personally.
I literally bought this movie for this podcast. I
This
can't believe I didn't already own it.
This is a product of its time.
Oh yeah, this is like what 1982, 82,
yeah, something like that.
1982. Yeah.
Okay, so when the main thing that was keeping me through this movie that I thought was very boring, sorry, but I was trying to figure out which character was played by a certain actor, and this actor's name is Alan Arkin. So I saw his name, I was like, oh, that's Hawkeye from MASH. It's not. I was thinking of Alan Alda, who has a very distinct voice. And so the whole movie, I was like, is that Alan Alda? Alan Arkin, I kept saying. And then I realized, no, Alan Arkin is the grandpa from Little Miss Sunshine. And of course he played Schmegma or whatever his name was. What was that guy's name? I hate him.
The
Mendrick.
Schmendrick. The wizard?
Yeah, it's a Yiddish word.
Yeah, so that's what kept me really going through this movie, was trying to figure out where Alan Alda, who I mistaked for Alan Arkin, was. Okay. So that was very confusing. And then I got to the end and I was like, oh, he's not in this movie at all. Cool.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen this movie, it's really, really weird.
I love it.
I think my love of, because I do love this movie, but I don't know anyone who loves this movie who loved it after they became an adult and watched it then.
That's
I only know people who love this movie when they were introduced to it as children.
What was the other movie? The Black Cauldron, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was like, I don't like this movie. And you and T were like, what? And then you were like, well, no, we get it. Because my main thing, and I think it's going to be the same for this movie, is I did not watch this as a child. And I think like I missed my window to appreciate it as what it is. Like, it's an interesting, weird story, but I was like, this is so boring.
To me, I think I appreciated it more as an adult. Like, I was like, this kind of creepy as a kid. And the older I got, the more like the themes like spoke to me.
I definitely loved it more as a child, like 100%. I was in the world.
Yeah. I mean, you did get it every week or every other week.
Yes, I did.
Family Video or Blockbuster.
So, I mean, as an adult, I understand more of what it was trying to say, but as a child, I really felt it.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of being in the world, I'm reporting live from the Unicorn's Lilac Wood. I'm in a Miller High Life shirt with a witch on it. It's yassified Mommy Fortuna, I guess.
Yeah, wow.
And I have
Angela Lansbury,
yeah,
Murder, She Wrote.
an LGBT rainbow mug in honor of unicorns as queer icons with skeletons on it in honor of the skeleton in this
And
movie.
who drinks
Well
wine?
done.
Who
Yeah.
drinks water?
Yeah, I'm drinking
There's
water
nothing.
right now. I'm
And the
pretending.
skeleton
There's
drinks.
nothing in there.
Okay,
There's nothing in there.
I
Yeah.
couldn't tell.
Yeah.
That was confusing. So now I know. That's one of my questions. Thank you.
I
Answered.
I have this little unicorn
A unicorn.
that
Yes.
I keep on my bookshelf. It was featured in my musical play. It was like a set decor in Sleeping Beauty's bedroom, but yeah.
Very nice.
I
don't
like
have
that
anything
piece of decor
unicorn.
of yours when we lived together.
Thank
It was
you.
good.
Yeah.
Anything unicorn.
Yeah. I know. I thought about buying a unicorn shirt, and I was like, no.
I have it's a multi-layered joke. So
Okay.
every year for Christmas, Lyle and I decided that we were gonna get, a Christmas ornament, like a weird ornament, and that was gonna be like, oh, our first Christmas, our second Christmas, instead of like a
Yeah.
nice momentous
Mhm.
sappy one. Or for our first Christmas, we got a unicorn pull inflatable, but it's made of porcelain and it's an ornament. So it's multiple layers. It's a unicorn and it's supposed to be a pull floaty, but it's actually just an ornament. So I do have something unicorn.
Yeah. I have a unicorn
right here in
ornament
this closet.
too. It's a rainbow sparkly unicorn that Rafa made me put in the corner because it didn't fit the tree aesthetic.
Listen, Rafa and I were on the same level.
I don't think I have any unicorn stuff. I
Wow,
have mostly
fake
like dragon stuff.
fan.
Yeah.
Listen,
Tell me the receipts from family video where it didn't happen.
You know what I have? I have the actual movie because I bought it on
There you
Blu-ray.
go.
So that's what I have.
Blu-ray.
Yes.
I watched it on the Roku channel for free,
Yeah.
and there was zero warning for the commercials. So I would be watching it, and then all of a sudden it would be the Google Chrome commercial, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, someone's tapping on the screen." Okay.
Yeah. Free on Amazon Prime, and then it tried to shove an end it like the next thing before the movie even ended. Like it cut off the end of the credits, and I was like, no, they add to the movie. I hate when streaming services do that because it's like I
They
get
just-
it if it's like,
the
okay, we're
churn.
scrolling credits like in the black, but if it's like
Right.
if it's a visualized credit sequence, obviously I want to watch that.
Yeah.
Unless
thought-
it's the shit Beating the Beast one, which I did watch anyway.
Yeah, I also, speaking of, go listen to that episode. Alyssa was featured on that episode as well.
Beating the Beast 2017.
But yeah, so I thought there was gonna be like a scene. So I watched through the end of the credits. Mine actually didn't get cut off. Roku channel was like,
Yeah.
you're gonna fucking finish this. And
Yeah.
so I get through it and I think something's about to happen. And I was like, oh, this is where we find out the last unicorn is part of the MCU. And then it just cuts out and it's done. And I'm like, oh, there wasn't a scene. It was just
Credits
No.
are really
Close.
short, to be honest.
And
I thought it was
split
gonna be
them
something
between
else.
The beginning and the end. So.
yeah.
yes,
But
which I appreciated.
I have thoughts on that ending and why that last shot has meaning.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So if,
yes,
yes,
queen.
yes, unicorn. All right. So we were talking about The Last Unicorn 1982, which, you clicked on the episode. That's why I don't feel bad that we took so long to say that. My sibling Kate loves and loved unicorns as a kid. So like any unicorn content, like we would end up consuming it. They even wrote an unpublished novel about unicorns.
Oh.
So I saw this as a kid. I don't remember really being super into it as a kid, but I remember seeing it in high school with my sister and being like, okay. And then I've become obsessed with showing people this movie. I want to see how people react to this movie. My husband, basically no reaction, just like, I don't know why you make me watch these kind of movies. He does not like fantasy. He's like, why do you want to watch this kind of stuff?
That's an interesting pairing.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
And then yeah, so we've talked about our experiences with this movie. But it's based on a 1968 novel by Peter S. Beagle, who wrote the screenplay. I have read the book. I did not read it for this episode, but I have read it.
I listened to it for this episode.
I think it'd be great to listen to.
It was pretty good. Yeah.
And I've read the graphic novel.
Oh,
there's a graphic novel.
Yeah, I got it for my sibling for their birthday, and then I was like, when you're done, I want to read it.
See, I would have read it first.
Yeah. Smart. Better planning. So this film was produced by Rankin and Bass, the people who produced like those Christmas specials. It was animated by the Japanese studio Topcraft. Peter S. Beagle did not want them to make the movie initially, and then they convinced him. They won him over. Because they also
interesting. I thought it had some anime vibes.
It does, yeah.
A lot of anime eyes.
Especially if you look at anime from the 80s.
Right.
100%.
I'm just glad it doesn't look like Herbie the dentist, because I fucking hate that guy. Said it last episode, I'll say it again.
Well, it's gonna be hot when we get to Rudolph lore.
God, no.
They also made the animated Hobbit movie. Familiar with that?
I know what it is, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
The animation studio or the production?
Rankin and Bass. But I think it is. They also did use Topcraft. The score is by Jimmy Webb, but it's performed by the band America. You may know them from Riding on a Desert on a Horse with No Name.
Yep, on a unicorn with no name.
Yeah.
Until she finally gets a name.
Yeah, she does get a name, but that's not her real name. She's just the unicorn.
It's a fake. It's
an alias.
It's a human name. It doesn't count.
Yeah. Riding through a desert on a unicorn with no name.
Yes.
Because I was like, I know this, like I hear this, and I was like, I feel like I know this. And then I saw it in the credits, performed by America. I was like, the band? The country, the entire country sang this.
I think either Simon and or Garfunkel covered one of these songs. One of these songs was sung by Leighton Meester in, I think, Nashville, some TV show I've never watched.
We should have a podcast about Nashville. That show is crazy.
I know, but whatever show Leighton Meester was on, other than Gossip Girl, she sang.
I didn't know she was in Nashville.
Wait, which one? The Last Unicorn?
No, she's saying That's All I've Got to Say.
Oh. Of all the songs.
Which the last unicorn is probably the most covered. You'll see a lot of covers on YouTube. There's a Gregorian chant cover. Yeah.
I mean, you guys are gonna have to stop saying it incorrect. It's unicorn. Thank you very much.
The skeleton.
Fake fans right here, guys. Fake fans.
Only the skeleton says it that way.
No, in the song they say it, unicorn.
The butterfly says it like that at one point. There's one.
In the last, they
say that
you.
Butterfly. He's so annoying.
That scene is too long. I'm gonna say the butterfly scene too long.
So pointless.
So it stars Mia Farrow as the unicorn, Alan Arkin as Schmendrick, Jeff Bridges.
Not Alan
Alda. Jeff Bridges as Lear, Christopher Lee as Haggard.
The dude
is in this movie
from Big Lebowski, enunciating, that's what I was surprised at. I was like, I can hear every word you're saying. Good for you.
This is my favorite Jeff Bridges movie.
Wow, that's an interesting.
Every once in a while, I wish I could just teleport back and be in a grad school class and just like say an opinion like that, watch everyone blow up, and then teleport back to my current timeline.
I love that, like The Time Traveler's Wife. I mean, the book that I'm reading and the movie I just rewatched. I love that idea. Like, if your old self just like poofs in front of me, like we're in Rose's class, right?
Yeah.
You poof out of existence. Your future self comes in, and you're like, "Yeah, my favorite movie with Jeff Bridges. It's not The Big Lebowski. It's Last Unicorn." And everyone's like, what is that? And you're like, it's a great movie. Poof, out of existence.
Gone. Yeah.
Love that.
Maybe you should
And you
just
pop this podcast and you're like, they lost their shit, guys.
It also stars Christopher Lee, Saruman, as
Uh-huh.
Haggard, Tammy Grimes as Molly Grew, and Angela Lansbury as Mommy Fortuna. So we got
Writer she wrote.
There's a lot of oddly big names in this movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
It
Angela
being very
Lansbury.
obscure.
Angela Lansbury, was she big in the early 80s?
I think she was more of a theater.
Right. It
I
probably
don't
wasn't
think she-
until like the
Yeah.
late 80s, early 90s that she kind of
Yeah.
became.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But yeah, her, who'd you say? Saruman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Those are
Those are our
repeat
two
people.
returning guests. Yeah.
Very
The
cool.
Last Unicorn premiered in 648 theaters in the United States on November 19th, 1982, and earned $2,250,000.
I was gonna be like, I don't think that production company made a single movie after that.
Yeah, I am
That's why we don't see
bad
that name
with
anymore.
numbers. Yeah, it's a cult classic. It was big in Germany. It grossed a total of $6,455,330 in the US and Canada. You know, I love when people remember this movie. And if they know what it is, I'm like, wow, you're a real one. All right. So initially the DVD releases had poor quality because it was just like they like scanned stuff and it was like and it wasn't until 2015. So
The year of our Lord 2015.
So 10 years post Chicken Little, we got a better quality DVD of The Last Unicorn.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, you can watch this bad girl for free online. I had to watch the last 30 seconds of the ending on YouTube because of my streaming service being annoying. A live action remake was caught in development hell for decades, but I think the crazy man who had the rights is finally losing them. I think I would actually enjoy a live action remake of this. If you could do the unicorn right. I think that's...
Well, they're in Scotland, right? They're the national animal of Scotland. Yeah. So you just go to Scotland and grab, I'm sure they have show unicorns.
I don't know if you can do a live action remake of this and make it stark enough to be meaningful without making it super scary. Like I think it'd have to delve into being more for an adult film than be for kids, which is what the actual movie is. I'm not really sure about the book. I'm not sure where the book lives.
Yeah, the book to me is definitely not like, it's not like Narnia. You know, it's not like you get that's like more like high school aged. It's not YA though. It's not YA. It's more just
it was
like
written in the 60s. Was there even that wasn't a thing.
There weren't even teenagers yet, right?
Yeah. Teenagers were new. They were invented in the 50s, post-war.
So they were very new, and they're like, why would we cater to them just yet? Yeah.
Catering to them was like the Gidget movies.
But there are like specific things missing in the movie from the book that are like graphic.
Yeah.
So for it to be a live action film, I feel like it'd have to be much more dark and like it's a story I'd love to revisit in like a longer format, because I think there's things in the movie that are a little rushed at times, and I would love to see it have a little more room to breathe. This is the third film we've watched in what I'm calling the Crag-verse. That is medieval movies featuring the same verbo that is being passed around. So in my mind, this movie takes place in the same universe as The Black Cauldron and Sleeping Beauty. These stories all could take place in the same universe, like similar setting, similar aesthetic. Yeah, and also strong D&D energy. Not as much Sleeping Beauty, but Black Cauldron and Last Unicorn have D&D energy. 100%.
Yes.
Here for anyone who plays D&D. I represent.
Cute.
Thanks.
We had in our D&D campaign that I DM'd, we had unicorn water, which is water that was touched by unicorns. That was like super OP'd, like healing.
Yeah.
Because I was like scared that people would keep dying, but then it made everything too easy. So I think it came with a like, oh, I got stolen.
I do remember that.
Yeah, but to be fair, we had a druid whose solution was still always just to hit something. So we needed some training wheels. The book again came out in the 60s. I'm gonna just touch on the slight differences as we go through the movie because the same guy wrote both. Not a ton of differences, but let's talk about the lore. Harpies, they're in this. What? We're not starting with unicorns? No, we're starting with harpies.
Goodness.
Yeah. That little thing that shrieked at Aslan in Narnia, that's a harpy.
Looks pretty different.
Looks pretty different. Yeah, a lot more tits in this one. So
3 of them to be exact.
Yeah. So there's wind spirits in ancient Greek poetry that were not described as triple-titted. So that was this animator's
triple-titted vultures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were just double-titted vultures in ancient lore. Well, so they were first wind spirits, and they're described as kind of beautiful. Hesiod, who wrote the Theogony, described them as children of the Titans, which were not monsters. They were just like old gods. And then Homer said that one of them was the mom of Achilles' horses. Yeah, sure. And they represent kind of destructive aspects of the wind. There was a king that Zeus was punishing by like every day a beautiful feast would appear, and then the harpies would come and either snatch it or make it like gross and dirty. Until Jason and the Argonauts, which is basically like the Avengers of Greek mythology, showed up and helped him.
Hold on, I have a question.
Yeah.
If they're the daughters of the Titans, or are they gendered?
They're all female, yes.
Okay. Does that mean they're sisters of the gods?
They're related.
Everyone's related, though.
I mean, everyone's related, but
yeah, especially in Greek mythology. Yes, yeah. Everyone's related. So they're like cousins. They would be Zeus's cousins.
At least cousins.
Yeah. Yeah. Virgil details that the escaped Trojan prince Aeneas, the son of Venus, in a hookup she was very embarrassed about, had a run-in with the harpies, and they were cursed. They'd be super hungry. They would later go on to become, Aeneas would be ancestor to Julius and Augustus Caesar. So exciting for him. One of these harpies was named Seleno, which means the dark, and she's the one that cursed them or prophesied. They also feature in the Infernal Woods in Dante's Inferno. They torture people. So that's harpies. Let's talk unicorns now. So unicorns don't have the dominance or the reputation that dragons do. I feel like dragons, it's Dungeons and Dragons. It's Dragon Lady. What is Daenerys called? Mother of Dragons. I was like losing it. There's a dragon in Lord of the Rings. Maleficent turns into a dragon. You know, dragons, Aragon.
Dragon lore is all over the world.
There's Dragonborn in Dungeons and Dragons. There's Aragon and the Dragon Riders, Jedi things. There's, you know,
How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon.
That takes place, is that supposed to be Scotland?
Vikings. It's a thing where all Vikings in American movies talk with Scottish accents. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking because of Jerry Butler.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. It's Vikings, so it would be Scandinavia.
So dragons, huge. Big. Unicorns, which I think are a little more interesting, not as huge. Not as huge. There's no unicorns in Game of Thrones or Middle Earth. You know, they're almost like less serious. Which is
like a girly reputation.
They're less violent, which just doesn't. I mean, violence has always lasted longer, you know, in legends and myths and stuff. So
yeah, they're less violent. Is this a side issue of like nymph erasure, unicorn erasure?
Oh my god, here we go, another set of erasure. It's
that. Unicorns again, they're not a male violence power fantasy, at least not currently, so they go by the wayside. Interesting.
They're almost the exact opposite.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Peter rides one in Narnia.
Oh yeah.
And I think there's unicorns in Stardust. Legend with Tom Cruise. We'll talk about that movie at some point. Harry
Ugh.
Potter. Yeah.
Are unicorns in Harry Potter?
Yeah,
Yes.
they kill them.
Yeah,
Oh
for the
yeah,
unicorn
duh.
blood.
Yeah.
I forgot
Mhm.
about that.
So, but unicorns, they didn't start as folklore or myth. They started in Greek science. They come from natural history. Ctesias and Pliny the Elder, as well as others, talk about unicorns in India, a place they had not been to. And they were described as asses with horns that were red, white, and black.
The horns or the asses?
Both, I think. It's
Okay.
hard. And Assyrian art depicted oxes that either had one horn or were just sideways, so we don't know if it was supposed to be two or one. So that could be where the legend came from. We don't know. Medieval, they really took off in the Middle Ages. This was their heyday. So in late antiquity, which is basically means the Roman Empire post Christianity becoming dominant before the barbarian invasions and Rome collapsing. The Physiologist was written, which describes many myths about animals and nature, which found their way into pop culture, / the bestiaries, which were written, which were IRL monster manuals. They're basically fantastic beasts and where to find them, but also every animal that they could think of or care to talk about.
Yeah, it was basically all the animals of the world, and then mythological animals also made it in there.
Yeah. And so this is still the realm of science, not myth.
Yeah, they weren't actually considered myth at that point.
So someone was like, I don't believe in unicorns, they'd be like, trust the science. I believe in science, you know.
I want to say that to everyone who doesn't believe in unicorns these days. Trust the science.
Yeah. So in this movie, is others will say unicorns exist in fairy tales. The only unicorn I know of in a fairy tale is a brief appearance in The Brave Little Tailor, where he tricks the unicorn into stabbing its horn into a tree so he can capture it.
What an asshole.
Yeah. A unicorn in this period is now gets its semi-standard depiction, which is a horse with a goat's cloven hooves and a goat's beard and a lion's tail and a slender spiral horn on its forehead. So that's where it becomes not just a horse with a horn, as it kind of now is, but this kind of composite animal. And this is where they're usually white. And they're considered like wild, untamable forces of nature. Their natural enemy is the lion. Their rivals, which some people, there's like the oak versus holly, night versus day like thing that I remember reading about before I really understood it. And the unicorn and lion represent that, like the lion is like the sun, the unicorn's the moon. But that could be pseudo science or pseudo folklore studying. I don't know. The hunt of the unicorn became like a common story because unicorns loved innocence and could be subdued by a beautiful maiden or virgin. And she would sit there and the unicorn would lay in her lap, sometimes described as suckling. And then she would either lead it to the castle or the hunters would then get the unicorn. This is how unicorns became symbols of chastity. You can see that in Fuck Me in the Ass Because I Love Jesus music video.
Of course.
Yeah.
The text.
Yeah. So this is where unicorns got an association with innocence. Famously depicted in the unicorn tapestries that can be seen at the Met Cloisters in New York. That was my priority. When I went to New York, I saw the Met Cloisters through the unicorn tapestries and I saw Frozen on Broadway. They were made in the Netherlands in the late 15th century, and they're owned by let's see if I can do this one, Rochefoucauld family, and they're very fairy tale like chateau. The problem is, monarchy is not a fairy tale. It's a real thing that kind of sucked. And after the French Revolution, they were looted and used to cover potatoes and were pretty damaged until they were found and given back to the family and later the art world.
Wait, the best thing that they could think of to do with these looted royal tapestries is cover potatoes?
Yeah.
Checks out to me.
They didn't have a Met Gala to go to wear like to tapestry dress.
Cover potatoes? They at least were worth something. You could
Yeah,
have sold them
carrots.
and bought some fresh produce other than
Yeah.
potatoes.
It's just like fuck you and your monarchy bullshit. Though that is one of the sad things when you read about a lot of French art is how much of it was destroyed in the revolution. But that's what you get when people are oppressed and starving. You know, speaking of, I'm living for people were like playing Ursula music under Camilla getting crowned. Like they're talking about like the patron saint of side pieces. Camilla is queen. That he had to be
Yeah.
sat on the stone of destiny to be crowned. I don't know. I believe the British monarchy is not long for this world. Who are not happy about that coronation.
No. Yeah. Let's hope we don't have to ever see another one ever again, because it's just a terrible display of wealth.
Yeah, especially because the people could afford to pay for this display of wealth themselves, but they make the people pay for themselves.
8 million pounds to send official portraits of King Charles to everyone in the UK, and it's like 8 million pounds. The
What?
NHS is failing. 8 million pounds.
Can't you just like put it online or something?
Yeah.
Make it an NFT. No, they're so weirdly beholden to their traditions that it's comical and disgusting at the same time.
Yeah, it's like I'm really missed an opportunity to rewatch Diana the musical yesterday while that was happening.
Did you really? I love that. Yeah.
I should have. I
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
That's what I meant. Like, I'm like, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I could have just been, I should have known, you know what I should have done? I should have flown out to England. I should have smuggled in a loudspeaker and started playing Diana's Underestimated during the coronation. Or
fuck you dress.
The fuck you dress.
The
Thriller and the Camilla and the
yeah. The Thriller and Manila with Diana and Camilla. I think I might watch that sometime this week because quality. Anyway, so yeah, the coronation happened. That was a thing. Monarchies bad.
Yeah, especially the British one.
Yeah, it's just,
you know, like I'm not gonna come out here
actually doing anything.
Yeah,
like the people in Scandinavia still have them. Like, why?
They still have them, and that's why I'm like, you know what? I don't want to yick everyone's yum, but I'll yick the British's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically, I will yick the British's yum.
Yeah, I'll say that one is a mess. Yeah, so they've been restored. These tapestries are very detailed, and they depicted the hunt of the unicorn in 7 different tapestries. Ending with the unicorn resurrected. It's lying peacefully in a pen with a pomegranate tree. Pomegranates, symbols of fertility and resurrection. Why? Because Persephone ate them, and that's why she's in the underworld. That's why she comes back, right? I'm sure there'll be a time we're going to talk more about Hades and Persephone. So I'm like, that's a footnote for now.
Perhaps Percy Jackson.
Percy Jackson.
Correct me if I am wrong, but the beginning of this movie is like heavily referencing the tapestries.
Oh yeah, and the beginning,
in
especially
the art in general,
and yeah, the art style in general. You know, that's why it has a similar feel to like Sleeping Beauty, which also reference like that time period of art. The forests, especially, same forest, honestly.
But this has a little anime flair.
Yeah. So why is it resurrected? Because unicorns had become symbols of Christ, because the connection to a virgin and then resurrection. So it would feature in religious art of the Annunciation. So for those without Catholic guilt, that's when the angel Gabriel told Mary, like, you're going to have God's baby. Are you down or no? And she was like, yeah. She said, let it be, sang the Beatles song. Yeah. So the unicorn is now kind of an allegory for Christ in art. And why are they hunting it? So unicorn horns were believed to cure wounds, purify water. If you drank from a cup made from unicorn horn, it would protect you against poisoning, disease. So these were rare and much desired. The substance was called alicorn, kind of like how elephant tusks are called ivory. And people would usually end up buying narwhal or rhino tusks because people were buying unicorn alicorn cups. Lots of nobles possessed them. The Vatican had some, maybe still has some, who knows.
A lot of weird shit.
Yeah. Now it's time for the Reformation, and the church is like, okay, how do we fix our issues? You know what? Council of Trent, let's ban unicorns in religious art. It's too confusing, too many mixed messages. So this has led to unicorns now becoming a secular thing. And so this is where the unicorn tapestries are made. They become in heraldry, which is like your coats of arms. This is where unicorns they weren't around much until, post-Reformation Europe, or late medieval to post-Reformation, so that's when they're really popping off. They become the royal arms of Scotland, which, unicorns are wild, untamable, and the rival of the lion, which is the royal animal of England. And so in their current coats of arms, you'll have a lion and a unicorn. And depending on which country or part of the UK you're in, like the unicorn or the lion will be like more dominant in the art. My Scottish friend was flying his Scottish flags yesterday to be like, screw Charles. But another king, King James, we may know him. He was the son of Mary Queen of Scots. He was obsessed with hunting witches and demons, and he was very anti-fairy. So he used the lion and the unicorn in the coat of arms, and he also commissioned the King James Bible, which features the word unicorn. A Hebrew word like rem was translated as unicorn. Now, and in other texts, it is more described as wild ox, because all the passages refer to just like a wild and strong beast. There's nothing unicorny about it. So dragons still get a spot in the Bible, so that's their upper hand too, even in the Bible. Dragon lobbyists won this one. Marco Polo described, the guy from the pool game. Yeah. He described unicorns as big, gross lovers of mud. He meant rhino, specifically the Indian rhino. And people think this may be where the whole unicorn thing started. So now in the modern age, their association with young maidens kind of led them to be these marketable and innocent rainbow creatures. We have She-Ra and her unicorn steed. It's a combo of a unicorn and a Pegasus. A pegacorn, as Taylor Swift called it on the Jimmy Fallon show in the Ew feature. So this is a common combo. People will say, my sisters get very upset when people did unicorns with wings, because they were like, those are two different animals.
Yeah, not the same thing. Hold on a second, because I realized, again, going back to how they're girly, quote unquote, there was a Lisa Frank cookie launch with Pillsbury, and I did get those cookies. I did bake them. I did eat them. And on the back of the box, it gave me a guide to find, I think it was your unicorn name. So I'm actually going to get that, and we're going to play a game.
Wait,
you have it ready?
Your unicorn name?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
The back of this box. I'm pretty sure it's unicorn name. Let me go get it.
Yeah, I mean, while she gets that, like Lisa Frank and that kind of rainbow aesthetic was a big thing. So that's kind of where unicorns are. All right.
It is your unicorn name.
Okay.
So mine is Frosted Shimmer, because the first letter of my first name is H, and I was born in June. So Allyssa March, right?
Yes.
You're Sugar Pearl.
We have was it Frosted Shimmer and Sugar Pearl?
Sugar Pearl. And September.
I want to write a fanfic about these unicorns.
Galloping Butterfly.
Ooh. Okay. I like that.
Oh God, Lyle's was really funny. Lyle's was Artsy Butterfly. And he was so mad. Everyone else in our family had like a really cool name. He's like Artsy Butterfly. Sugar Pearl, honestly, I love that one. That one's good.
Sugar Pearl,
not bad. Yeah. It's not bad.
So
I feel like Sugar Pearl runs a fancy bakery in like Unicorn Town. Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Galloping
go to your
Butterfly is a
local
fuckboy. Yeah.
Kroger, Target, your local grocery store, get yourself some Lisa Frank Pillsbury cookies, the pre-cut ones.
Honestly,
They're
sounds good.
adorable. They taste the same as, the pumpkin ones and the
Yeah.
ghosts and stuff, but they're unicorns. And then you get this handy guide that I keep on my fridge whenever people come over and I find out their unicorn name.
Their true name. Yeah. Also in the 80s is when we get My Little Pony. This
My
had
Little
many
Pony.
Yeah, we had many creatures. This included regular ponies, unicorns, Pegasus ponies, flutter ponies, crystal ponies, tiny ponies, eventually alicorn and alicorn princesses, which are unicorns and Pegasus combined. Currently the current reboot has Liza Koshy, Kamiko Glenn, James Marsden, Sophia Carson, and Coachella Christmas icon Vanessa Hudgens as the characters. There was an immensely popular My Little Pony Friendship is Magic TV show, which spawned spin-offs, movies, the Brony community, Tumblr cringe, documentaries, horrible fetishes, and a bit that my friend had in high school where he would pretend to be a Brony.
Pretend.
Pretend.
I'm sorry to tell that person they loved My Little
They
Pony.
love My Little Pony.
Unironically.
Ironically. I watched a couple episodes of that one and I was like, what a fun kids show. Like, what? That's cute. That's a good time. There's a
What
fun
a rich culture.
Yeah, there's a fun Bob's Burgers episode about it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean the lore of that show was fun from what I remember of it. But yeah, it could be a little frightening, but there's plenty of content about that community, so check it out. A startup company valued at more than $1 billion, typically in the software or technology center, is called a unicorn. That made it very hard to find podcast episodes specifically about unicorns when I was trying to do research. Cue Anna Delvey, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for you. That's what I say to the business economics world. Like if I want to learn about business, I'm going to put business in my search. If I'm looking for a unicorn, I mean a unicorn.
They're treading on some pretty serious territory here in the fantasy community.
Yeah.
I think they need to stay in their fucking lane.
Stay in their fucking lane.
Just
you have
kidding.
Wall Street. Let us have podcasts.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Unicorns became a queer. All the businesses just sue us. All business. You're being sued by business, by Lord Business from the Lego Movie.
Yes, I love that.
Unicorns became a queer symbol because, like the rainbow Lisa Frank aesthetic, being rare, magical beings that aren't supposed to exist, and maybe because they were banned by the Catholic Church for flimsy PR reasons.
Also a title of an episode of Glee.
I Am Unicorn. Yep. Shout out to the Glee booties. If you like this dynamic, we have a podcast for you. It's Glee Boot. We watch all of Glee. As evidenced, this is the definition from dictionary.com. Okay. As evidenced in the 2010s, the unicorn is slang for usually a bisexual woman who sleeps with an existing couple composed of a heterosexual male and bisexual woman without the expectation of emotional intimacy. The term implies that such a person is rare, like the unicorn in myth. And I think it's now also kind of extended to be like someone who's going to be down for polyamory.
Yes. That's sort of the vibe.
That's a very, very specific definition.
Yeah, so I think that's specifically what it originated as, and now it's kind of like someone who's into polyamory. I think sometimes it's a unicorn, or someone who fits whatever niche you're looking for. But I think it began with that, at least according to the scholars at dictionary.com. Also, you're going to hear about Eastern unicorns. So, it's called the Callaghan of Chinese lore, or the Kirin in Japan and Korea. It's called the Eastern unicorn, but that is kind of a Western oversimplification. So they bring good fortune and they're generally beneficent like a unicorn, but they really look super different most of the time. So that's kind of like, people do this a lot where they'll be like, this is the Chinese Cinderella, this is the Chinese unicorn, and it's like they're very culturally distinct. And in Cinderella's case, they're a lot more connected, but like in some of these cases, people are just trying to fit something into a Western box to make it more understandable.
What are they What do they look like, and what are they
They're like
actually called?
scaly and like have multiple body parts from different animals. They're more chimera-like.
Hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a unicorn to me.
Yeah. I've seen art of them that is more unicorn-like, but I think that's like post-cultural exchange, which is fine.
Mhm.
Culture can evolve, right? But Eastern unicorn is kind of an oversimplification. Also, I want to briefly touch on the name Amalthea. Amalthea is a goat slash nymph slash goddess that suckled Zeus when he was hiding from his father Kronos as a wee babe in Crete, with the help of his mom Rhea and Gaia, Mother Earth herself. Zeus was so grateful that he took one of her horns and used it to make the cornucopia. So maybe she only had one horn after that. Some say that she's the goat Capricorn. Others say no, Capricorn is specifically male and or part fish. So
Didn't know that second
I didn't
part.
want to piss off the astrology girlies by saying something is
We're
fact.
already mad. I don't consider myself an astrology girly, although I do love reading about it.
I think it's fun. I think it's fun.
It is
I'm not an
fun.
astrology
It's
girl
fun.
girly
Low
either.
stakes.
Yeah. That's our lore for today.
I mean, that was a lot of lore. Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
In the second Shazam movie, Fury of the Gods, right?
Yes, which I did see. Yes.
Their unicorn lore was very fascinating in that, and I didn't hear any shred of it in your lore explanation. So that's why I was like, So their lore was that the unicorns that they end up finding were like the most fearsome creatures, and all the other mythological creatures that were there also feared them. Like they were like top dogs. Thoughts?
And they were given Skittles.
Yes, because they like sugar or something.
Yeah, there's Hindugo girl. Taste the motherfuckers.
So good. But anyway, yeah. That was very strange.
So Shazam, like comics in general, likes to borrow from mythology, but in a way that feels like bastardization most of the time. We'll get to the Thor movies at some point. But like, I'm not usually, especially in my old age, I don't know. I'm not as like, that's not how it was in the book. I'm like, kind of like, if you're adaptation. But I think the reason it pisses me off is because I don't think they make smart adaptational choices most of the time. They make annoying ones. So unicorns would not, I think those other creatures were like Cyclops, harpies, like unicorns were not in myth in ancient Greece. They were not associated.
Interesting.
I mean, but they are talking about the wisdom of Solomon. Again, not an ancient god, mythical figure, from a different mythology. So it gets very
messy,
as the DC universe is wont to do. Well, again, we'll have to talk about.
There's also other places like in modern media that have turned the unicorn myth or legend or just lore in general sort of like on its head. Just because it makes an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, they're like unicorns are rabid and violent. And the thing is, unicorns were considered wild and fierce. They weren't kind of like Aslan in Narnia. They weren't necessarily like just shiny, happy, bubbly. They were like, they could be scary, even though we're kind of good.
Like Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods.
Like, I don't know if either of you have watched that, but the unicorn makes an appearance as one of the monsters and like ends up goring people to death.
Yeah.
So
which in the Narnia books, The Last Battle, it describes how unicorns are hard to fight because they get the hooves, the horn. It's a lot. So
there is some stuff out there. It seems to be somewhat newer.
Yeah.
Of like them actually being somewhat violent, sort of quote unquote masculinized.
I mean, being wild and untamable. I think
honestly though, I feel like wild and untamable is more of a woman thing. But like if you think about man and woman and like the difference between masculinity and femininity in how it's depicted and how like men are supposed to like chase after women and dominate them and you know like that sort of thing. It all
Interesting.
sort of fits.
Yeah, which is interesting that unicorns were typically depicted as male until
Yeah,
modern
that
times.
is.
You know,
But they always came to females.
they came to, yeah. Uh,
Hmm.
you know what I think is also interesting, or my kind of thing with when people want to like, ooh, these unicorns are tough and scary, is it feels very 12-year-old boy to me. You know, and I'm just realizing that most these men that work in Hollywood haven't matured past like how I matured past the way I thought when I was 12. But there's like when you're a 12-year-old boy, you're like, oh, I'm gonna make things edgy and like what, you know, because but like you're an idiot because you're 12, so you only know so much. And so when you make things, you don't realize that that's been done 25 times before. And so sometimes we get to this where sometimes I find traditional depictions of something more edgy than subverting it because it's been subverted so many times that it's like it's cliche. It can be, you can subvert a cliche so many times that doing the cliche straight is no longer cliche. Like, and that happens when you go back and watch things in reverse. Like an example would be Pretty in Pink, where it has like Ducky the nice guy and then like the guy she's the hot popular guy that she's into. And I had seen so many movies where the girl ends up with like the best friend character that I know when it came out, everyone was upset and they wanted her to end up with the Ducky. But I was like, oh, I'm glad she ended up with like the new hot guy because I had seen that subverted so many times that to me it would have been cliche if she had ended up with the friend.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's also why I like this because there aren't that many depictions of a traditional unicorn. So subverting it is kind of like, I don't know, it's like passe. I don't know. Also, you know, how I felt when I saw Shazam was, wow, I actually do care about these characters. I just hate the story they're telling about them. I would have loved same characters. I would have loved to see Shazam too, just totally different plot. Are we ready to delve into this 80s film?
Let's go.
Sure.
We open in a lilac wood. We get these hunters. They can't catch any animals because just like in Dungeons and Dragons, animals in a unicorn's forest, they learn some magic of their own and they can't be caught or hunted. She's protecting them. So they're like, this must be the last unicorn in the world because the guy's like, they're only in fairy tales. And he's like, oh, this is a unicorn. And they're like, hey, stay in these woods. The world is no place for unicorns anymore. It's no country for old men. Stay in the woods and keep your friends safe.
Directly from the book, this whole scene.
This annoyed me because the guy who was like, oh well duh, we're not gonna find any animals here because it's the unicorn's forest, and he's gonna keep charging on. The other guy's like, well then we should fucking leave. And I'm like, yeah, why are you here?
He didn't want to catch
was
anything.
Silly.
He's vegan.
Yeah. He's a vegan.
It's
like,
a
I'm
vegan
here for
hunter.
plants. I'm here for the lilacs. I love lilacs. He's a florist.
Well, yeah. He lied on his looking for people on Craigslist because he didn't think anyone wanted to go to the woods to look for flowers. So then she's like, am I the last unicorn? We have Mia Farrow's haunting voice, and we see the unicorn and the sudden flourish of music, and then we get our song, The Last Unicorn, paying homage to the tapestries, referencing her laughter, her sparkle, eagles, lions, fountains, and the moon. There's a crying squirrel. I love this song. I think it's beautifully written, and it captures the essence of a unicorn to me.
It's so pretty. And it's like, I'm not gonna lie, when I was a kid, it did not make me cry. But now that I'm an adult, every time I hear this song and I see this sequence, I like get tears every time.
It's the loss of innocence.
It is.
Yeah.
This song is like an homage to my childhood that is long gone.
Hannah is like, I don't give a fuck.
I think I got 0 themes from this because I was really bored. So I'm just gonna, hi Suki's Tale. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I think I was just, this was the moment where I was stunned that I was like, why is this so like soft rock folksy, and then I was like, oh, it's the band America. Got it. Okay. Yeah, that was interesting. An interesting choice. Hi, Suki. She's like, I don't want to be by the unicorn.
So upset with me.
And so then she's like, okay, what's going on? Am I the last? I mean, just because he hasn't seen a unicorn doesn't mean that we're gone. He's just like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then this butterfly comes by and she's like, hey, do you know, have you seen others like me? And this butterfly, he's always singing little poems and songs and ditties. He's annoying. And she's like, I shouldn't have asked you. Like, all you butterflies know is like shit they see on the internet, you know? Like,
kind of. It's like a mishmash of like, wasn't there like Broadway ditties in there? It's like, ugh, you're the worst.
It's like scrolling through TikTok really fast.
Yeah.
And so, but then she's like, you do know what I am? And she's like, say it. He's like, yeah. And she's like, say it out loud.
Sorry,
but she is Twilight.
Reference.
But she is saying, say it out loud, you know?
I mean, oh my God, was Stephanie Meyer inspired by The Last Unicorn for that scene? Oh my God.
And she's like, he's like, yeah, unicorn from French, from Latin. And she's like, have you seen others?
Unicorn.
Yeah. And he's
like, he gives her like an etymology lesson. I'm like, shut up.
And then he's
a horse with one horn.
He's like, they passed down all the roads long ago. The Red Bull came behind them and covered their tracks. And she's like, the Red Bull? Like, what is this? And then he's like, bye.
See ya.
Yeah, and he just pisses off and he's gone for the rest. I thought it was like, surely he's gonna come back.
I mean, no, I didn't want him to.
I didn't either, but I was like, why would we spend conservatively 800 hours with him and for him to not come back? But I was like, he's the exposition dump, I guess.
Yeah.
That scene is not even that long in the book. I don't know why it's so long in the movie.
Like, it took me a minute to read. It took 17 minutes in the movie.
So it was even being performed.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Not necessary to extend something like that.
Mm-mm.
Again, yeah, if I was adapting this, I would change it instead of like this passive. I would have it like be a little friend who heard something. You know, a little animal friend. She's like, okay, well, I have to go and find out what happened to them. And the other animals, including the dodos, all her animals in the forest are like, don't go, you're protecting us. And she's like, I gotta find out, I must go. So she enters the threshold. She's taking her next step on her unicorn's journey. She leaves the woods. And so she's on her little mission. And we get Man's Road about the
walking Man's Road.
Because she's just following the road. She's out. It's no country for unicorns, and she's tired. It's hot. Get this long trip. And humans just see a mare. They try like, oh, what a pretty mare, and she's like, a mayor, a civil servant.
How dare you?
Servant.
And she's like, no, I'm a unicorn. Which I get, because if I was sitting there and someone was like, oh, look at that big ape, I'd be like, excuse me.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I totally got why she was upset. But I also was like, that's also so rude that he was literally coming after her to like with his belt to like strap her down essentially and to like lead her. Yeah, and it's like, that's bad too. Like, I hate that.
Yeah.
I remember not liking that scene as a child.
We all want to be seen for who we are, you know? We don't want to be seen as somebody else.
Yeah.
And so this is a reference. Men can't see unicorns anymore because there's a lack of wonder and whimsy in the world. Everyone was written by the screenwriter from the Beauty and the Beast 2017, and they can't see magic. Everyone's Emma Watson in that movie specifically. But you know who can? The unyassified Mommy Fortuna. Though her tree trunk hat, kind of a sleigh.
I was gonna say, I love it. There's always the bird or whatever is up
Yeah.
there. Love
No,
it.
okay, I've noticed. I know this is my first time noticing this. I've seen this movie so many times. That bird, I think, like hangs out in several scenes. You like see it after she's dead. That bird shows up a few different times, just like in the background.
Huh.
Huh.
Yeah,
I mean, I recall seeing like crows and stuff. Are we sure it's the same one?
and not 100%. It's not like I did a side by side comparison, but I think so. So Mummy Fortuna captures her, and she's like, it says to her little sidekick, not a minion, crony,
Like her
maybe.
son.
That's her son?
Yeah.
Yes.
I never caught that. I never caught that's her son. I just thought that was like a dude she
Yeah.
hired.
No. I don't think that is their relationship in the book.
Hmm.
I think that he's more of a just like a hired hand in the book, which is interesting.
So she's like, oh, what is that? He's like, a horse. And she's like, oh, Schmendrick, my little like loser wizard. Can you see that? And he's like, he can see that she's a unicorn, but he's like, no, yeah, I can't.
It's
Sorry.
a horse.
And so she's like, you're an idiot. And she puts a sleep spell and they capture the unicorn. They put her in this cage and she wakes up at the midnight carnival. And the son is like taking people on this tour and he's like, we have a satyr. Ladies, watch out.
Creatures of night brought to light.
Yes. The Midgard serpent, Loki's kid, Thor's nemesis. We have a dragon.
Which, okay, that snake
Jormungandr.
could very easily slither through those bars, but whatever.
They there's like an interesting aside in the book that I remember thinking was like useful, but I didn't really ask the question, sort of like why do we see this portion of Jormungandr in a cage? But they don't explain that in the movie, and I think that was a good choice.
There's a dragon that speaks 17 languages badly.
Yes. And is prone to gout.
A manticore. And Schmendrick is like, what do you see? And she's like, they're poor carnival tricks. She's like, it's an old toothless lion. It's a monkey. It's a snake. But she sees the harpy, and she's like, that's the real triple-titted thing.
Mm-hmm. Triple-titted vulture.
Yeah. And they cut in the book. There's a spider who they say is Arachne. The first spider, and the spider is so convinced by the magic that the spider thinks she's Arachne as well.
Yeah. There's a whole it's like a whole bit about believing and what you believe and what sort like how belief makes reality, which I think is kind of like glossed over in the movie a little bit. It's more of a trick than it is like a manipulation, if that makes sense.
But shout out if you want to hear the story of Arachne, shout out to the Fairy Tellers podcast and one of their latest episodes called Etymology and Entomology.
Very confusing.
Yes. We get an episode where they talk about Arachne. And I kind of saw her in a new way after hearing about this. Arachne, truly an icon. Arachne is what people want Brad Pitt and Troy and the guy in Clash of the Titans to be, but Arachne already did it. So the guy, he's taking them around and they see the unicorn and they're like, one of the maidens is like weeping. They're like, oh my gosh. But you see in their reflection that they're only seeing the conjuration of the unicorn.
Yes.
Yeah, because she has, so we see her normal horn, and then we see this like curved one that comes out beneath that.
Yeah.
That is the trick.
Yeah.
That's what other people see.
And they're like that she can make people who want to see a unicorn see a unicorn. You know, there is that, like they want to see it, so they do. But then how come they can't really see her? What happened? Yeah. It is interesting that they still yearn for this beauty and this lost thing, but they can't truly see it.
Yeah. I get the distinct impression that it's not anything that they've done. Like it's not their fault. They just you know, they're just incapable. It's like
they're just normal people living their normal lives, so they're
Mhm.
I don't think they've been spending their whole life wishing to see a unicorn, but if someone's like, do you want to see a unicorn, they're like, yeah. I think that might be the distinction.
Maybe.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about what's her name?
Molly.
Like she knows right
Yeah.
away, and like it's that distinction that like she has waited her entire life, not just like we're gonna go to a carnival. Oh, I hope there's a unicorn.
Yeah. Yeah, Mommy Fortuna's like, yeah, no one would recognize you without my magic. She's like, there isn't a witch in the world that hasn't laughed at Mommy Fortuna, but I'll show them. This is her high school revenge fantasy. She had a bad time at that all-girls French one with Maleficent at that college.
Yeah, they
or
definitely
high
went to
school.
the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's having a bad time, and she's like, I've captured a harpy and a unicorn, and they're immortal. And so they'll always I'll be immortal because they'll always remember me and that I held them against their will. Which is an interesting way to be immortal. I want an immortal magical being to fucking hate my guts forever.
I mean, like, if you want to be immortal and you're mortal, what other way to go down in history except in the mind of an immortal being?
That's true. I mean, that's ballsy.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a girl
kind
boss.
of iconic.
Yeah.
She was right.
And the unicorn's just like, let me go, and let her go. She'll be the death of you. And she says, I can't bear to see her caged. We're two sides of the same magic. That like if she's forever young and like regenerative and protective, like the harpies forever old and ugly and destructive, which that'd be interesting to have them played by the same performer in some kind of thing. Anyways, they're she said same magic. And she's like, I'm looking for the other unicorns. And Mommy Fortune is like, King Haggard and his Red Bull got them, but I won't let them get you. They won't have you. And then that night, Schmendrick is like, hey, I distracted the guy with a riddle. Let me try and use magic. I'm Schmendrick the magician, which is a Yiddish word.
Schmendrick?
Yes. So he's very strongly Jewish coded. Yeah.
You know what it means? I don't know what it means.
It does mean something. Let's see. I have it on one of the Wikipedia pages. Oh, I'm finding out the author was disappointed with Arkin's performance. Seemed a little too flat.
Maybe they should have hired Alan Alda.
I gotta be honest, I think his performance probably the best in the movie, except for maybe the unicorn. The unicorn was good.
Yeah, but it's also like that's how Alan Arkin kind of is. Like he's not like high. Like he's kind of like not flat, but he's got like a very monotone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels it's like very littered with sarcasm.
Yes.
I think part of it is the animation style is a little flat. So when it comes to like a human, like you're not gonna get like the same way like a Disney character emotes and adds to the performance. It's a little flatter. But it's a parody of the character Mandrake the magician, and is drawn from a Yiddish word Beagle defines as somebody out of his depth, the boy sent to do a man's job, someone who has expanded to the limits of his incapacity.
Interesting.
Yeah, I still don't like him, but whatever.
So he is like, all his spells don't work. They're all bad.
Well, it's not that they don't work. They just don't do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
He
has magic, but doesn't have control over magic.
He did his first few years at wizarding school and dropped out.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to be a police officer.
Yeah, I want to be a wizard cop. Yeah, but then he's like, well, I have the keys. I tried to be a big wizard.
Yeah, I was like, but I think that was a really good characterization for him, even though I was like, if you had the keys, why didn't you? But he's like, I have to at least try. I'm a wizard. I'm a magician. Yeah. So it's like, it's a good characterization. Like, even though he knew he could do it, he's like, well, I have to do it my way.
Well, speaking of the D&D energy, I do love that these are very much not people that would be on like the Fellowship of the Ring. Like these characters, like yes, the unicorn's magical, but most of these characters are like Like
It's
the
like
just
the
like
D&D movie.
yeah.
Like he
Yeah.
reminded me of the one kid.
The sorcerer.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
who had
that
the
sorcerer.
hat
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
Justice. Yeah, very
Yeah,
similar.
Justice Smith. Yeah.
Very similar, and
Very
yeah,
similar
this
energy.
yeah, and just kind of like this is a campaign of losers, you know, like
Yeah.
the unicorn and her loser friends. It's not like the greatest elf in Mirkwood and the heir to the lost throne. It's like
I mean,
You
even the
get who you
unicorn
get.
has her problems. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the Locke talks to him and is basically like roasting his lack of magic, like some magician. I love, but this whole time the unicorn is very supportive of him. Like, keep trying. There's real magic, you know.
Mhm.
And then in the book, it details that he's cursed to be immortal until he learns how to do magic right, and then at the end of the
yeah,
book, he's immortal, like a
that
regular human.
that was one of the things that I found really interesting that they changed from the
Yeah.
book and the movie. Is that he's in the movie he's actually characterized as being young.
Yeah.
But in the book, he's like old as whatever's really old. I'm
The
struggling here.
hills, yeah.
That's
And he just
interesting.
can't continue aging. He's like stuck at that age. But I actually like it better in the movie, I think.
Yeah, because I think if he was also immortal, I think he wouldn't like the whole idea of like her now finally understanding what it is to be mortal and like feeling
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah. It's like a weird.
we need only one immortal person on this trip.
Yeah.
Two would be too many because we need yeah, there's something about that dynamic, I think.
And there's in like the interesting dynamic is that like she doesn't want to die. She likes her immortality. She wants to be immortal. But he wants to start aging in the book. Like he
Yeah.
wants to die. Like that's the whole reason
Interesting. But that's
that
also
he
an
wants to
interesting
go.
one too.
It's really interesting. Like if they did a live action remake, that might actually be something that would be interesting to bring back.
Yeah.
So the crony guy, the son, he finds Smedrick. They're wrestling. He's hitting him in the head with the keys. And the unicorn is letting all the animals go. She touches the lock with her horn. It's a master lock. And then the harpy is like, "Hey, sister, we are sisters, you and I." And then
We're cheetah girls, cheetah sisters.
she and he's like, "Don't let her go." And she's like,
I gotta.
I gotta. And the harpy is like attacking her because at first she's like, "Hey, sister," and then she gets out of the cage and she's like, "Bye, sister," and she's trying to kill her. But then Mommy Fortuna comes out and she's like, "Pivot," and
Yeah.
Mommy Fortuna's just like, "I held you."
Yeah, basically, don't forget me, bitch.
And the vulture harpy is like, "I won't forget eating your face."
Yeah,
She
you
was
and
like,
your son.
she's just eating them, and the animals got away, and he's like, "Oh, we gotta run!" Like he's
She's
horrified,
like,
and she's
don't
like,
do that.
"You
Ever.
mustn't run from anything immortal. It attracts their attention." What a
Which
great
is
tip!
good advice. I'm going to remember that anytime that I meet an immortal creature, and they exist. So
that's my pro tip.
is that number one? Always carry salt with you in the Appalachians. Number two,
It's like
never
anywhere. You should
run.
always have enough salt to make a circle.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even about the circle. It's more about the counting. Let's put that. That's why you throw salt over your shoulder. So
Got it.
whatever's following you has to stop and count it.
See, I was thinking supernatural, the Winchester.
I mean, but like,
Yeah.
if you only have a salt packet worth of salt, it's better just to throw it over your shoulder. But if you have enough salt to make a circle,
but
that
don't throw the
also work.
packet, open it, put some
Yes,
salt in your hand.
exactly.
Don't just throw the packet because they just gotta count one and then they can get you.
Exactly.
Now all I'm thinking of is sea bear circles. But I was thinking that is good advice, and I could see that as like a YouTube dating guru for people who want to like date immortal gods. It's like the one thing to make guys obsessed with you or to make women obsessed with you, you got to run from something immortal. It attracts their attention. I can see it now. Schmendrick travels is like, can I go with you? And because Mommy Fortuna is dead, and he's like, oh my gosh, and she's like, she chose this. This is the path. And he's like, don't you regret, or like, don't you feel upset that like you let this RV? And she's like, I can't regret. I don't know what that is. Don't know her.
That's an interesting scene because I would not have regretted that person being in a cave. Like, I don't understand why Schmendrick regretted it. I feel like it just could have been something.
Schmendrick was not necessarily captured, or at least in the same way she was. Like, I got the vibe that he didn't want to be there, but he wasn't in a cage.
Yeah, this was just like whatever job he could get.
Yeah.
Without a high school diploma.
If you think about it from her perspective, I mean, I think he's just sexist, so.
I kind of wish there was like a better moment of where she could have been feeling regret legitimately, like something that we would understand.
Bad to do. Yeah.
But it's also the same scene in the book, and I still didn't get it because it doesn't really make sense. So.
Yeah, like if people attending the carnival had been attacked by the harpy.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I was gonna say, it's like, I mean, we know that woman is evil. Like, there's no nuance to it. Like, she's a bad lady.
Exactly.
Her son was a bad dude. So it's like,
but I mean, I think maybe it's based on like the reality of seeing even someone you know is evil, like being like mutilated and eaten.
Right.
I think that's what Schmendrick is coming from. Like, it's horrible. And she's like, don't care. I don't know regret. She's like, I can know sorrow, but that's not the same.
Right.
That's different. And this leads into, he's like, can I go with you? And she's like, oh, I wish we had something else, but that you asked, but I can't make you a real magician. He's like, don't feel bad about it. And she's like, I don't.
Don't worry about it.
No fucks. He's just like, and that's what's interesting is it's like she's this high aloof, but she's not necessarily, she's aloof. Like, she's like, I don't really give a shit about some of your problems. Like, whatever. And in the book, at this point, there's a scene where there's a princess like doing this like marital ritual thing where she has to call to the unicorn. And he's like, hey, why don't you go talk to her? And the unicorn's like, she doesn't really believe or want to actually see me. Like, just the thing that she's doing. And which I like, there's a lot in this story that implies that unicorns don't really give a shit about your sexual virginity, which I love. Because I know that's not a common trope now, but it was. So I love that he very like, it's not a central theme, but it's just like kind of in the backdrop that's not what makes a unicorn like appear to you.
Yeah. Also in the book, it's interesting because she has this conversation and she's like, yeah, I used to just go to them when they called to me no matter what. Now I just don't have time.
I feel like
disillusion.
That's like God. It's like when I was praying as a kid, like I didn't really know what I was doing, wasn't really doing it to actually talk to God just because I had to. And God was like, yeah, I got people who actually believe. I gotta go talk to them.
You should have run.
I
Attract his attention.
Running in a circle, and God's like, oh shit.
Just go to a church and then run. And then there's also, Schmendrick mentions a wizard who saved a unicorn by turning them into a man. And the unicorn was a great hero, and he died surrounded by friends and family. And she's like, wow, that's evil.
That sucks.
Like, way to, like, you screwed him over. And she's like, we don't know death, and we don't know decay. Like, what a horrible thing that wizard did.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree,
So Schmendrick is then caught by outlaws. He like climbs a tree to hide, and they catch him. They say it's raining men. Hallelujah. Something. They say it's raining something, but I always think it's raining men. And this hero is like not even the poor man's Robin Hood. This outlaw, he is like the hobo's Robin Hood. Like he's just like this guy, and they're all like rat stew. It's watered down. It's so thin. It's basically sweat.
They've been using the same rat for 3 days. Yeah, it's not good.
And so Molly Grew, who's his like partner, is like, I'm not feeding another person. And he's like, oh, perform. And we're going to hear a song about the great feats of Captain Cully. And they're like, no, we want to hear about Robin Hood.
Yeah, that's how not Robin Hood this person is. It's like, we have like literally the myth of Robin Hood that we're about to show you. Like we'd rather hear that because that's what we aspire to. Like that's how much it sucks.
That's like, oh, like I want to hear that like that new like Lady Gaga song, and your friend being like, well, I have my own mixtape that we could listen to instead. And you're like, no, that's not what I asked for.
Yeah, I have my own beats that I made myself.
My
It's like I would
SoundCloud
like
raps.
yeah, it's like I would like to listen to not that. Anything but that.
And in the book, there's this whole thing where Cully is like, oh, you need to know my songs because my goal is to be like annotated in like folklore, discussed in podcasts, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Like he's playing the long game, but he's not doing anything right to get
Yeah.
there. He just
Yeah.
like expects that's gonna happen because he's like, well, there's gonna be a future, and
There's
like
like
I'll be in the past.
there's like a whole scene in the book where he actually pays the mayor of some town not to arrest him. Like usually it's the other way around where the townsfolk are paying off the outlaws for protection money, and it's just like completely flipped around. And yeah,
Yeah.
he's pretty much an idiot.
Yeah, they're just like they're trying to live out this fantasy and it's very much not there. And so as things start to go south, the unicorn uses her magic to help him, and he summons Robin Hood and Maid Marian and Friar Tuck and everyone, and they're all running after him. And he's like, we're not, the Robin Hood's a myth, we're real. And he's so mad that him and his main guy, they tie Schmendrick up to a tree. Now we get quite the
The
sequence.
tree.
Now listen, I love talking trees. We've
You
talked about this
do.
on the podcast before. However, what
You have a
transpires
new
next?
favorite?
No. I mean, I have a new favorite line from that scene.
So Schmendrick uses the magic and it backfires and makes the tree fall in love with him. And this tree is
She transforms into a busty lady. And
very
where his head
classically known as the boob tree.
the boob.
Where he's like wrapped around, like almost hugging the tree. And so where the tree transforms, where his head is just her giant cleavage.
And just like he's drowning in those titties. Again, similar to Black Cauldron and the Frog.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
the 80s. What a time for cartoon kids.
Seriously. And so his line was, oh God, I'm engaged to a Douglas fir.
Yep.
And I was like, this is my new favorite line in any movie ever.
And she's like, there's no immortality like a tree's love. My leaves shall wear the color of your eyes when all others have forgotten your name. And then the unicorn goes up to free him, and she's like, the hussy, she can't have you.
I think it's important to note here that I have always thought that she was talking about the unicorn when she said that, but in the book, she's actually talking about the Douglas fir to whom he is engaged.
Wait, the tree is upset
about the engagement with the fir. Not about the unicorn.
Oh, does he make a joke and she's not, the tree isn't a Douglas fir, so she's like,
the tree's upset about his engagement with the Douglas fir, but the movie makes it seem like she's upset because the unicorn is coming to save him. And I don't know if that's on purpose. It might be.
It might be on purpose to simplify it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what a Douglas fir looks like off the top of my head. Though, isn't that more like a Christmas tree?
Yeah, evergreen. An
evergreen, yeah. So she frees him. The tree goes back. They leave, and Molly Grew's like, oh, leaving so soon. And then so Molly Grew is like the Maid Marian of this shit outlaw gang. Basically, she's taking care of these gross, sweaty guys.
Yep.
And she recognizes the unicorn. She's like, where have you been?
This is so upset.
Dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you?
This is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, where she's like, how dare you come to me now when I am this? Where were you when I was new, when I was young, when I was one of those innocent maidens you so often come to?
20 years ago.
So it's like she's this young woman who ran off to have this like storybook adventure life. Like she was like a dreamer, and her life did not turn out like this. Now she's like gross. She's living in the woods. She hasn't showered. she's, she's not like a virgin, like she's not this
She
the
doesn't have a
stereotypical.
chamber pot.
Yeah, she's not the stereotypical fairy tale heroine anymore, and now she sees the unicorn. And then she's
Mhm.
like, "It's okay. I forgive you. It's fine." And she's petting her. And he's like, "She's the last one." And she's like, "It would be the last unicorn on earth that comes to Molly Grew."
I
Little
feel like
self-deprecation.
from watching it when I was a child to watching it now, I feel a lot more connected to Molly Grew at this point.
Yeah. Molly Grew, I think, is a great character because, again, she's very much not a trope. Like, she's not even a fully a dice, like if Schmendrick is like a twist, she's just like, this character's not usually here,
Mhm.
Mm.
And it's interesting because a lot of the good ideas are her ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then it's also because this unicorn isn't that interested in human sexual innocence, purity, like that. It's that Molly truly believed and like valued the magic of the world and like a unicorn, and that's what makes her visible, And he's like, "Yeah, we're going to King Haggard's castle to find the Red Bull." And Molly's like, "Well, you're going the wrong way."
Gotta turn
Wrong
around.
way.
Yeah, he's like, "We're on a quest." And he's like, "Okay, I'm coming."
He
Yeah.
gets really jealous. He's like, "You can't come." It's very classically, like sibling, like girls aren't allowed sort of thing.
Yeah, and she's just like, "I'm coming." And that's Molly's attitude this whole kind of time. It's kind of like, "I'm here, like, deal with it." Because what are they gonna do? Like, just run away from her really fast? Like, he's like, "I'm following you," and he's like, "Yeah, we're going to Haggard's Land. We never went there. It's so dangerous." In the book, there's a town there called Hag's Gate, and when the witch built the same Verbo that he shared with the Horn King and Maleficent, or that they all rented at various times, he didn't want to. He apparently is the landlord of the Verbo, so he didn't want to pay the witch. And so when she was like, "Hey, townspeople, are you gonna stand up to him?" They're like, no." And so she curses them that they're, as long as Haggard reigns, they'll be very prosperous and wealthy. But someone from their own town will cause the downfall. So they all agree: no immigrants, no foreigners, no new people moving in, no children, nobody new. So and they knew that he was kidnapping all the unicorns, but they're like, not really our business, is it? So yeah,
His town doesn't exist in the movie.
no.
I could see it either way. They could have put it
Yeah.
in. It doesn't. I'm not really missing it, but
Yeah, I think the movie didn't necessarily need it. I think if it was a longer movie, I think you could have included that. Flesh out the journey a bit. So they see their Red Bull. He's there.
Not the
He
drink.
does not give them wings. The Red Bull is a personification of what Red Bull does to your body. Just like this giant flaming red dyed bull, and he's chasing the unicorn. And first she's running, and eventually she like gives up, and it's just like, "All right, take me away." And Molly's like, "We have to do something. What good is magic if it can't save a unicorn?" And so he calls on the magic, do as you will. And then it turns her into an anime girl.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, if you want us to do what we want to do, here you go.
We want a waifu.
Yeah.
The bull's like, "Well, I don't give a shit about that." The bull's like, "I'm not really into anime," so he leaves her.
Yeah. I'm not really into anime. Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh my gosh." She's like, Molly's like, "What have you done? What have you done?" Turn her back. And he's like, "Wow, I can't. I'm just good. I'm a vessel. I'm a messenger." And she's like, "You're an idiot."
I mean, to be fair, like he didn't have any control over it,
Yeah.
so
But
it's not really his fault.
Yeah, she's upset, and he's just like so focused on himself in that moment. And she's like,
like he wants to claim possession of the magic because he thinks that it did something good, but actually it did something bad. And then he's like, actually, it's not my fault. Hello.
And the unicorn wakes up, and she's like, "What? Where am I? Who am I?" And she's like, "I wish you had left me to the bowl or to be eaten by the harpy." I can feel this body dying all
Dying all
around me. That line has stuck with me. Like, that's one of the things I remember from when I was young. Like, that line, I
Yes.
can feel this body dying all around me. Because then I'm like, can I feel my body dying?
Well, I guess no, because we've been mortal the whole time. But if you go
Yeah.
from being immortal to being mortal, then I suppose maybe you would.
Yeah. She's like past 25, so she's on the way
She's like,
down.
Yeah,
my
your cells
back
are
hurts.
regenerating.
Yeah. She's like, I have an allergy now. So we're back at the Verbo. They go to this. We've seen this before. The Black Cauldron Verbo, the Sleeping Beauty villain Verbo, Craggy Castle on Forbidden Mountain Street. It's a popular rental. So the guards, they're like, take us to King Lear, and they take them to this shitty throne room, and it's like, plot twist, I'm King Haggard. This is my son, Prince Lear. Why are you here? And they're like, what about the court? What about the gossip and the ball and the hunts? He's like, I had all that, didn't make me happy. He is a Marie Kondo minimalist, Gen Z aesthetic minimalist.
I don't even think so, because
Not even that.
Taken to its
Because
horrifying conclusion.
because I was gonna say, like, that is like about bringing happiness, and like it to some extent works, like it makes
Yeah.
you feel better.
Well, it also
He
requires
is
you to
so-
have aesthetics, and he does not.
Yeah, no style. But yeah, no, like he is literally just like the saddest person. Like, even me in my worst depressive episode, I'm not that bad.
Yeah, no, things because he's a sad person, so nothing will bring him joy because he's a miserable, like everyone else who's rented the Verbo before him. He doesn't know the joy of love or kindness or helping others.
No,
You know?
he's just like, so miserable.
He's got
It's
red
the
eyes.
worst.
Yeah.
That, like, red. The whites of his eyes are red. Like, he's smoking
High
way too
all the
much weed.
time.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make him happy either.
Yeah.
No. It's always a downer when this guy gets high.
The worst.
His eyes are so red because he doesn't blink. He just stares at the sea.
Yeah.
Because he's a psycho.
He is a psycho.
He is.
He's bloodshot because he's not blinking. He needs clear eyes. Not sponsored.
I wonder if he's the one who built it. Like, did the witch make it like really like quirky? And then he was like, no, minimalism. And he like tore out all the interesting furnishings and stuff. It's like, I want black.
Well, if you look at the actual architecture of the castle, I would call it quirky.
Yeah.
There are eyeballs and like limbs in
Faces.
places that they probably shouldn't be in the architecture. Just saying.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
So the Lear keeps staring at the girl. Like, who's this? And he's like, oh, that's my niece Amalthea. But he's like, I have a magician, you know, because Spendrick's like, I'm here to offer my service to you as a magician. And he's like, I have one. He's the magician's magician. He's the top magician. And Molly's like, yeah, but he hasn't made you happy, has he?
Yeah. And then
he's like, maybe a bad magician.
Make me happy. Well, that's an interesting thing, is that Schmendrick says that in the book, not Molly. But I like that Molly says it.
No, because that seems more like Molly, because Schmendrick's kind of an idiot, and Molly's the thinker of the group.
Yeah.
She's the brains of
and
this
she's not
operation.
interested in schmoozing. She thinks, schmoozing is going to get me forward. And she's like, clearly it's not. Let's just, straightforward this.
Yeah. She's like, she read this guy, and she's like, no. And he summons a fancy magician just to fire him. I always expect like there was like a wizard duel here, but he does like shoot out magic and the unicorn repels it. And it's just like, not on my watch. And he's like, yeah, you're fired. And he's like, you brought your own doom through the front door. I wouldn't be you for all the money in the world. And Lear is just like, come on, I'll write you a reference.
Yeah. A letter of recommendation.
And Haggard is like, oh, you're looking at the sea.
A Yelp review.
And he walks towards her and he's like, who are you? And she's like, ugh. And he looks in her eyes. He's like, why can't I see myself in your eyes? Because her eyes turn green and he can see the forest friends, the animals.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, the magic of nature does not please me. And he's like, you know what? They're here. I guess I'll look at them for a while.
With his unblinking eyes.
He's that creepy guy in the gym who like watches you change at your locker and you're like, excuse me.
It
And
seems like not a universal reference.
Really? Wow. You're in the North Hollywood LA Fitness, maybe. So he's like, my secrets guard themselves. Unlike that idiot beast who has rules about which part of his castle you can and cannot go to. And then we get some passing of time. We get the song In the Sea. We see some narwhals. Lear is killing dragons, but Amalthea doesn't care. She's like, she's just like,
I hate the In the Sea song. I hate it.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, did I listen to it on Spotify today when I listened to the whole soundtrack? No, on YouTube because it's not on Spotify. Yes, but that's because I try and listen to something on theme when I'm writing my notes. I wouldn't like pull this up. I want to listen to In the Sea as I do some bench pressing.
It's good. There are some good parts of the song. It didn't make it all the way to the first two songs. Like the first two songs are like nice. They're good to listen to. They're catchy. In the Sea didn't make it there. It almost did.
That's how I feel about a lot of folk rock. It's like there's a part of this I like, but I gotta listen to this other shit. Yeah. So yeah, Haggard makes Schmendrick do like weird little tricks. He's just entertaining him with being a bad musician or a bad magician.
He's probably not a good musician either.
Yeah.
He's the one who wrote In the Sea, so
he wrote In the Sea. It's his song about his experience on his like album. He's on Santa Monica Pier handing out to people CDs. So Lear is like, I became a hero for her. I've defeated ogres, black knights,
also
dragons.
Just a quick want to remind everyone, this is the dude speaking. King Lear or Prince Lear is the dude. That's Jeff Bridges.
Oh,
enunciating so well. It's like you really have to listen to it to like hear it. It's insane. It's crazy.
Jeff Bridges really wanted to be in the movie, from what I remember. He was like, yes, and yes, get me in this.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Maybe he really liked the book.
Probably.
Yeah. He was like, this is gonna be great with a doobie. I'm gonna get high and go to the premiere of this movie. I can't wait. I have to be in it.
Molly's like, try talking to her, and he's like, she doesn't talk to me. She's like, try poetry, and then Molly's like, you're cruel to him. At least talk to him. Which I'm not usually a fan of telling women that they need to entertain the advances of men. I will say that. I do think you owe them the no thank you end of list. End of what you owe them. That's the hot take from a man that everyone was asking for.
Yeah. Thank you, Cullen.
You're welcome. You're welcome, world. But she's like, who am I? See, she's like, why don't you talk to this guy? And she's like, who the fuck am I? Like, she's a whole different existential crisis.
Yeah, that's why she can't talk to him, because she's like, I don't know what I like, what I don't like. Apparently my name is whatever, but
what is my name? Yeah.
And like she doesn't really remind her. They don't really remind her when she's like clearly forgetting her purpose.
Because I don't think they want to say it because they don't want Haggard to hear.
Right. And
they're just like it's almost like a comfort thing where they're like, don't worry, we'll find them.
Yeah. And
find two now?
Like, what are we talking about?
Because at one point they're like, oh, if you cry, there's no amount of tears that can turn you back into a unicorn again.
Yeah, that's
Unicorns don't cry like mermaids.
And
mermaids
big
don't cry.
girls.
I mean, that's kind of useless underwater, but
Yeah.
Well, Fergie also said that big girls don't cry.
Unicorns, mermaids, big girls don't cry. That she sings "Now That I'm a Woman."
yeah, I hate this song too.
So
But
Okay, good, because I don't like it either.
I think this song is so bad it becomes good. I have this thing with this song where I'm like,
interesting.
this like the lyrics are kind of interesting, but they don't reach a full conclusion. The singing, Mia Farrow, I think her acting performance is amazing. I don't think the singing is good.
I agree.
She can't
bad.
sing. It's so bad, but there's something about it that I'm just like, maybe it's just like it fascinates me. I'm just like, what is happening? Like, what is, and she's like looking at all the unicorn art that's suddenly there, and because she has a big like star on her forehead, and like the way she's posing, it looks like there's the horn coming out of it. I guess I just love an existential crisis. I don't know. And I just love she sings "Now That I'm a Woman," and like J.K. Rowling and all the TERFs exploded. So she's like, I have to find the bull. I need to confront him before I forget myself. And she's like, okay, Schwendrick's trying. Molly's saying that. And she's like, Schwendrick's a clown. And she's like, rude. He's doing this for you.
She's right. Molly's right in this case.
Yeah. And she's
I think it's more apparent in the book though.
Yeah.
In the book, it's like he's actually suffering, like basically is like Haggard is putting him in all of these precarious situations, and then he's getting hurt, and that's why Haggard is keeping him on, because he likes to watch him getting hurt.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, because like it doesn't it's not very clear in the movie that like it just seems like it's a nuisance.
Yeah,
no, he has to do this, but like
the book is. I also don't care because I don't like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care. You're the one who turned her into a human being, and you know what? Maybe you do need to pay some penance while everyone figures this out. But also, they do kind of stay stagnant for a while. Like that's the vibe I get. Like it's long enough that like she falls in love with this guy. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Spoiler.
So it's like, why aren't we moving on this a little faster?
Yeah, you think it's I think it's because Schwendrick is tied up, and Molly has to make the food, and one's having an existential crisis. Right. So after an 8-hour workday of having an existential crisis,
you know what? You have to explain it to me. Good point. Next point in the conversation. You're right.
And she's like, that's rude. She's like, she like kind of runs off crying. If I remember, she does a lot of dramatic running off because I think she's not used to experiencing emotions.
Yeah.
Like a human does. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
She doesn't have, like, as a toddler, you learn how to, as you go through life, you learn how to control your emotions. She's just thrown into
She's just
being a young woman.
Giant toddler. That's
it. So Haggard's watching, he's thinking, so meanwhile, you know what this movie needed? And I don't even mean, it needed a pirate cat.
It absolutely did. Listen, I was looking at my cat. Lyle was there, and we were like both watching this, and I was like, I think this is actually how Sid talks. I think Sid's a pirate, and he talks in riddles.
Like, oh, that feels good.
Yeah,
purr. And
the eye patch, spoiler alert, doesn't need it. He can switch it to the other eye.
It's aesthetic.
I love that.
I love that.
Leg.
That's what eye patches are for. It's not to cover your eye that's gone. It's so that when you go into the hole, you can switch it to the other eye, and one eye is already automatically adjusted to the dark. That's why pirates wear eye patches.
I don't know what hole you're talking. Oh, the hole of a ship.
Of a ship.
Okay.
Because they're dark.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This is making so, because I do get that.
I just learned pirate lore. I was today years old. Is that real?
Or did you just make that up?
Because
I'm pretty sure
that's crazy. Wow. We didn't
That's-
need to get to Pirates of the
I
Caribbean to
could be
learn
wrong
this.
because I learned this a long time ago and I don't remember where I learned it, but I fully believe that
Even
it
if
is
it's
correct.
not true, I love that. That
Yeah.
wow, iconic.
Yeah. Otherwise, a lot of pirates would be losing a lot of eyes for that
Yeah.
to be so incredibly
I know, that's a
prevalent.
very specific injury to be that
That's
widespread.
true.
Yeah. Probably more missing like fingers.
Okay, so what hull of a ship is
This cat.
this cat going into?
The cat's is going
Now
to the
that's not into-
dungeons.
Yeah, the true dungeons. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my god, guys.
Is the cat Lear's, or is this guy's like, there's only a few things that bring me joy? One of them, a
Is my
pirate
pirate
cat.
cat that
Which,
talks.
fair.
Talks in riddles, never gives a straight answer.
Yeah,
I
he
was
said
like,
no cat anywhere has ever given a straight answer.
and I was like, that's so true.
That's the realest shit I've heard in this entire podcast.
Yep.
And but he says you gotta pass through time to get to the Red Bull, something like that, you know. And Lear is struggling to write poetry because he's bad at it. So he's struggling and she's having nightmares and she runs in and she's like, oh, I don't want to trouble you. And he's like, trouble me.
Yeah, he's like, pay attention to me.
And he sings All I've Got to Say, and she's duetting with Now That I'm a Woman, which is not included in the late Meester cover. And again, not good
Not
singers.
good.
What a snooze.
They cannot sing, but I love it. I love that they are floating and they see the unicorn. I love it as fully well knowing it's a mess. Fully well knowing it's just shorthand for them falling in love and that the singing is trash and the song's not even that good. It's just like, and it's not even that thematically interesting. No. I love you. That's all I've got to say.
That is literally it.
Like, it is interesting though that that's all he has to say, and she's being like, I was looking for something long ago. I was immortal. What am I? And she's like,
he's like, I love you. You're
she's
great.
Like, that's it.
Listen,
I guess I'm down.
I think your friend Katie would have a field day with this song because she is literally the pinnacle of like that ethereal girl that she was talking about. The blue-haired girl was in the Pinocchio movie, and he's just like, I love you, and it's just
she's just like, I guess.
Yeah, it's just like, I've got so many other issues. He's like, you're just a thing to me.
I do think, I mean, we're gonna actually talk a little bit about potentially the origin of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl next episode. So interesting. It originates in human X mythical creature romance, which as prevalent as female centric as the genre is now, definitely started out male centric.
Fascinating.
So they kiss at the end of the song. On the, they're into each other. Schmendrick's tired juggling teacups in a storm. Molly's like, I got a clue. So they're searching around, and Lear is like, you gotta be of noble birth. There's no way you're related to that Jewish-coded magician.
Yeah, I was like,
this blonde guy is giving me great vibes at the moment.
He's like trying to like help her figure out who she is, right?
Yeah.
That's like the idea. Okay.
Yeah, but I like that he is classist.
Why is she of noble birth? Why do you think that, Lear?
Because people are classist.
Because she's blonde and really very, very white.
Yeah.
And
she got purple eyes. You think she be that Aurora? That Aurora bitch you heard from?
Actually, he doesn't realize it, but she's albino.
Yeah, she is albino. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things I appreciate about this author and his meta commentary is that royals would be classist.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that. That's just like how they are, and that a mythical being that's like immortal would be insensitive. I like that because he doesn't overdo it. He doesn't like, oh, and everyone's an asshole. It's just like this kind of like, yeah, that's kind of how this would be if this played out, you know?
Yeah.
It is much more prevalent in the book, actually. Like, Hannah, you were talking about how he like wants to possess her, and that's way worse in the book.
Love
Way
that.
worse.
Love it.
You know, considering who his dad is, not surprised.
Yeah,
His
no.
dad, quote
His
unquote.
dad, because so she's looking out at the sea, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I love watching the sea." It's like,
Yeah, Haggard
creepy.
just randomly comes over.
And she's like, she's getting it. This scene has scary vibes as an adult, and even kind of as a kid. I think it's the
This
scariest
is
in the movie.
Christopher Lee, right? He's
Yeah.
playing Haggard. Yeah. Creepy.
Yeah, and she's just like, ooh, yeah, no. And he's like, when I was young, I saw them and they made me so happy, so I had to have them all. So somehow got hooked up with this Red Bull thing.
He's like, I saw a
That's never
commercial.
explained. It
Yeah.
is
And
never
I was
explained
like,
how they
this
got
energy
together.
drink will be great for
Yeah.
me.
This energy drink will drain the world of real magic, so people need to drink it to have the energy to live life.
But yeah, he's being real weird. Divulging his past, she's like, I don't know who I am. And he's like, I'm gonna throw you in the fucking sea.
Yeah, he's like,
like
everything.
that's her part of the conversation. She's like,
What are you
cool.
doing?
You like looking at the sea, me too. Cool. He's like, yeah, I know what you are. I'm gonna throw you in the fucking ocean.
And she's
And
like,
she's
what?
like, he's mad. It's like,
He's like,
Can you
everything.
imagine Haggard saying that to you?
Yeah, and you're like,
That's
what?
literally it.
Yeah,
Because she has no context.
no
like,
context
he's
for this
only a
conversation.
human.
yeah,
Yep,
he's
no
like,
context for this conversation.
everything about you, your hair, the star on your forehead. But he says like the flash of your throat, every way you move. You know,
Yeah, her stature.
you know, she does. I mean, she does look weird, right? She looks like a unicorn, you know. And so he's like, just tell me who you are. Say it out loud, or I'll throw you into the sea.
Vampire.
And he looks. He's like, what's wrong with your eyes? Maybe I am crazy.
She's like, I don't know.
And because she's like, oh, look, your son's coming. And so I don't have to be on the balcony with this creepy guy. And he's like, that's not my real kid. I just found him.
Yeah.
Thought he'd
he's
make
like,
me happy. And he didn't.
Then that wore off after a little while. It wore off pretty quickly, is basically what he said. I'm like, Jesus, okay.
This fucking guy.
It's the worst.
Yeah. So meanwhile, then they're down in the basement. Don't really know how we get from that. I think now she's like, okay, I just need to be around Molly and Schmendrick. And so they're in the basement.
She's like, I need to get the fuck out of here. They think there's something going on that they can help me get out of here.
So they're talking to this skeleton.
Who is
so
he?
the cat tells Molly the riddle of the
Yeah.
skeleton, and
You
then
need to walk through time.
Yeah.
right, and then there's that scene. Are we supposed to assume that they've been sort of like searching around for it this whole time?
They've been doing investigate checks.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
rolling.
they did that, and then the DM was like, okay, we're gonna give this player a spotlight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brendan Lee Mulligan is like playing Haggard, like, I'm gonna throw you into the sea.
I would watch that. I would.
And
Siobhan's the
fucking
unicorn.
Siobhan is like, ah!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emily is Molly.
Yeah. Emily's over there, investigate check 20. Investigate check 20.
Who's Schmendrick? This is so niche, but I love it.
The guy who plays Riz Gukak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
he's got good vibes.
who? Okay. Lose the cat. Lose the pirate cat.
The cat is now part of the party.
Yeah, and then how do we fill out this party? I guess Zach is Lear.
Okay, yeah.
And Allie, who are they? Molly Fortuna. The butterfly.
The butterfly, yeah. Pulling out those Broadway numbers.
Yeah, let me DM them. I don't like, we got a pitch for a new season.
It's the last unicorn thief.
But yeah, Brennan being Haggard and Siobhan, like, I see that right now. So they're talking to the skeleton, and he's like, give me wine. I want alcohol.
Is he like
for
a
info.
guard? Like, who is he?
explained in the book.
Is it?
Not
It
in the
is,
movie. Okay,
yes.
I thought I missed it.
He used to be part of the Haggard's guard that like guarded the clock, and then Haggard one day just was like, I don't need you anymore, and then I'm pretty sure he got murdered. So
But he was like bound by oath to like guard the clock, so he's
right.
like still there.
Interesting.
Yeah, like that angel guarding the garden of Eden. Yeah. So they say they give an empty bottle and he pretends it's wine, and he's like, oh, I don't know, I made it, but it's not very good. He's like, give it to me, and he's like, ooh, wine.
I remember it.
I remember wine. And so then he's like, okay, it's simple. You go through the clock. Like before they give him the wine, like, you just go through the clock is time. Just walk through it. Like it's not a code. You just literally walk through it. And they
Well,
give
it's
him the
not
wine.
even wine.
It's just an empty glass.
Yeah. Molly's she brings a flask of water and she's like, I thought maybe you could turn this into wine, Schmendrick. And then he fucks it up and accidentally gets rid of the water, and there's nothing in there. But the skeleton still thinks that there's wine.
Yeah. He's not very good at remembering, clearly.
Actually, I think he's too good at remembering.
Right. Yeah. His cheeks, which are bones, go red, which is fascinating.
And so they go to he sees them go through the clock and he's like, wait, not that one, unicorn. And he's like shouting, and Haggard shows up and he's slashing the clock. He's fighting Schmendrick, and they get through, and she's like, where's Schmendrick? And Amalthea's like, whatever. And Molly's like, okay, I'm gonna go back for him. But then Schmendrick shows up, and so does Lear. And Amalthea's like, I'm not a unicorn. I'm not a magical creature. I'm a human, and I want to marry Lear. Like, that's what I want from life right now. I've become a woman, and I've accepted the box society has given me.
Yes.
And Schmendrick's like, she's a unicorn, and Lear's like, I love who I love. And thus the gay rights movement was born.
What did I write? Oh, I said, I love whom I love. He's gonna fuck that horse.
Like Catherine the Great, who did not fuck a horse. But the High
This
King...
is the second episode in a row. I think we said that last episode.
Catherine the Great?
Yes, you made that joke. Did we talk
about Catherine? I know we talked about her when we talked about the Secret of Kells, because the High Kings of Ireland did fuck horses. That was like a ritual.
What was last episode?
Sleeping Beauty with Samson.
Yes, the horse.
Samson.
Yes.
So is this the third time we've mentioned Catherine the Great not actually fucking a horse?
I think it might have been. Anyway, yeah.
So they're like, Schmendrick's like, the ending can't come in the middle of the story because nothing ends. There's no such thing as a happy ending. And he's like, unicorns may go unrescued for a long time, but not forever. Because Molly's like, at this point, why can't she just marry him? You know, that's what she wants. And he's like, we can't just end the quest. He's like, I need those experience points, baby. And he's like, unicorns, and the last unicorn would grow old and die, and there would be no more unicorns. And Lear's like, you know what? Okay, I gotta be a hero. We can't do this. And then the Red Bull attacks. And they're running, and she's accepted, I'm a damsel in distress now. So she falls and is like, I can't get up. And she's gonna die. And so he's like, magic, do as you will, turns her back into a unicorn. And she's being chased. She's gonna be herded to the sea. And they're like, what Molly's like, fucking magic, do something. He's like, I can't do something. That's what heroes are for. And Lear's like, oh, I guess that's me. Okay, I'm supposed to do something.
Me? Oh, I just said I was in the clock cave. I'm a hero. That's me.
And so he runs in, sacrifices himself, and then the unicorn has her Wonder Woman moment. She has her Diana Prince, played by Gal Gadot, moment.
Yes.
Where she's like, I fight for love.
No.
This is what upsets me, you know? And so she is like, it like inspires her, and she's just like, no, you know? And so she fights the bull. And I love that, like, it's not like she does anything special. She's just like, I'm done with your shit. Yep. I am like, no, I'm the boss now. Caesar Milan, who? and like walks him into the ocean. Like, you get in and you douse yourself. Like, he's like, no. And then all the unicorns come pouring out, and they run up, and Hagrid's like, no, as they destroy his castle. The Verbo is destroyed yet again.
I
Crumbles
think
into the
after
sea.
this, the Horn King comes in.
Okay.
Because it's the Horn King's version is pretty decrepit. So yeah, I think the Horn King gets
So
it.
what is it? Hagrid, Horn King, Maleficent? Was it rebuilt 3 times?
Because I think Maleficent comes in and she helps. She's like, we gotta clean this shit up. If I'm gonna live here with you,
yeah. Castle crumbles. In the book, Hagsgate crumbles too. The unicorns destroy Hagsgate. Then it's revealed that Lear was left out as a baby and no one helped him, and then Hagrid saw him. And then it's sort of revealed that that was maybe done on purpose to make the prophecy actually happen. I heard that
I feel
somewhere.
differently about that.
Yeah, I heard someone phrase it that way, and I was like, I feel like that's not what I remember from when I read.
Someone in the town wants to take credit for leaving the hero out to die so that he would become the hero. And it's really just them being a terrible person.
Yeah, okay, because I read that in the Wikipedia synopsis, but because I have read the book, I didn't read it recently, but I was like, I don't remember anyone in that town being likable. I remember, like, if you had just say this from memory, I would have been like, oh, they left him to die.
They did leave him to die, but then like his father was like, oh, actually, after all of this happened, I was the person who left you to die. Aren't you so happy that I did that for you? And deservedly, he does not actually get any recognition. He shouldn't.
No, everyone in that town sucks.
Trickle down economics. Their leader sucks too.
Yeah. So the unicorns destroy it all, and then she comes down and she touches her horn and she heals Lear, and he resurrects, and he looks up. She's all the way up the cliff, but she's like, I remember. Like, she remembers who she is, and she also remembers him. And so they are all immortal now too, in a way, because they're all in her memories.
Yeah.
But like in a way better way than,
than a less badass way, a more like nice way.
Yeah. Like, you made an impact on something immortal. And so she's like, we're older than the moon. Or she's like as old as the moon. She remembers like the moon happening. So she's like, yeah. And so she whinnies, and you don't really hear it till the end, and it's kind of like a laugh. So it's like this, like, I can't even do it. And then they ride off, and then Lear's like, I guess I have to go be a hero now. I guess that's my job. I'm the king. I'm a hero. And Schmendrick's like, Molly, do you want to come with me? And she's like, okay. Like, it's a warm okay, but it's still very much like, she's like,
sure,
why not?
I'm happy to be anywhere as long as it's not with that ruffian.
Yeah, and they're sleeping, and he sees the unicorn at night, which I wish she had said goodbye to Molly too. Yeah. Things I would change in the remake.
He does in the book, but the interesting thing, she says goodbye to all of them in the book. Goodbye. Molly does not tell anyone what she sees or what she said, because it's like portrayed as a dream.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder if like the author literally didn't know.
Oh, that's such a clever way to be like, I did not know what to write for this. To be like, she just won't tell anyone. But it is, I think, because there's something deeper. Like, I think the Schmendrick, like, obviously she has affection for Schmendrick, but I think that was much more of a transactional. Like, that even sounds more cold, but it was like, okay, we're in this together. Like, the wizard.
Well, Schmendrick is like the plot, and Molly is everything deeper than the plot.
Exactly. Like, that's, I just feel like they have a more like resonant relationship. I mean, that's why my favorite scene is the one where Molly meets the unicorn. That, and I like when Hagrid's like, your eyes, and her eyes show like the magical forest. I think that's a cool thing.
I like the part where he threatens to throw her in the sea, because that's fucking crazy. Especially thinking about it from her perspective. I was like, Jesus.
she's like, you know, there are unicorns in the world again, and for that I'm so happy. She's like, and now I regret. And he's like, I've done you evil. And she's like, no, I'm thankful for that too. Like, she has almost like a more full and rich experience of the world now. It's like kind of, this very much does follow the hero's journey in that, like, you come back with something. It is a clever twist on that, and she doesn't come back with some magical object. She comes back with like this feeling, this kind of knowledge that's hard to define.
She got to experience mortality without actually dying.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jesus vibes. Unicorn, and unicorns are Jesus. Oh my gosh, we got back here again. You know,
Jesus is a unicorn.
Jesus is a unicorn. I can't remember, I think it said to our friend Margaret, I was like, yeah, I keep a unicorn in my house in defiance of the Council of Trent, where they banned unicorn art. Specifically religious unicorn art, I suppose. But anyway, so Molly trying to go off, the unicorn returns to her wood. There was a cut scene that was animated. They animated and cut, and this was in the book, where they run into a princess who's looking for like help, and they're like, we know a guy who can help you. But I get why it's cut, and we end on the unicorn returning to the forest, and the forest glows again because she's back in it. And then we see this, it's like showing us the woods, and like you're expecting to see the unicorn again, and you don't. And I just think that's so interesting that like unicorns are always kind of hidden, and it's like she left to be seen by us for this journey, and now she's back to being hidden, and like you're it leaves you yearning to see a unicorn again at the end. Hannah's like, it left me yearning to get out of my couch.
Which of the next MCU movies Amalthea was going to show up in?
Yeah. Honestly, they'd be better. Throw Amalthea in. It's just like I said, Doctor Strange would Multiverse of Madness be better with Tina from Glee in it.
Yes.
I want both them to join the MCU, and then I might watch. I do want to see the third Guardians because I like the Guardians.
I have no interest.
Yeah, but no, they'd Aragon that franchise, and that by the time this one's out, I don't care like I used to.
Yep.
Because I was in college when the first one came out. I was in Boston when the second one came out. I'd been in LA long enough to have multiple jobs, come out of the closet, fall in love, gotten married.
And now the third one's finally coming out.
Yeah, I've gotten 2 post high school degrees in this time.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about the vibes. Let's talk about the music.
I don't like the music.
Do you even like the last unicorn song?
No, I didn't like any of it. It felt weird to me because I guess there's something interesting about like folksy rock is not what I'm expecting in a movie like this, which is interesting. But I was also like, I don't like any of this.
You didn't like the Tchaikovsky Sleeping Beauty music either.
No, I didn't.
You're not a fan of the Crag-verse music landscape.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody was really rooting for it, you know. Sorry if I ruined your bracket for this season.
I
only like the first 2 songs.
The first 2
Everything
songs.
after it is
I'll
not
agree with that
good.
for sure.
I do think it gets weird that it becomes a musical in like the last quarter of the movie.
That was also very weird because I was like, because when there's all of a sudden they're singing to each other, I'm like, this doesn't. Well, actually, when she starts singing "Now That I'm a Woman," I was like, this is a musical now.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense really.
It's like
it goes downhill music wise.
Yeah, I think the last unicorn song is just like top tier, so good. I think Now That I'm a Woman and All I've Got to Say, they give me some form of serotonin in an unexplainable way. And that's kind of, I mean, I do think this movie is legitimately good, but that is kind of the movie itself for me, is that it's just so like, there's no other movie that is like it to me.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love about it. Like, what other kids movie is about an immortal being learning to regret? Like, Pixar is not taking that pitch. Like, that's what I love. They're like, we could do another Toy Story one. We could do another thing that's really about how middle-aged men feel. Yeah. The visuals It's similar to Sleeping Beauty, I would say, especially the forest. And like the castle, like it has this very like 80s sword and sorcery aesthetic. I think the
Mhm.
animation is beautiful at times, especially of the unicorn. I think the unicorn is animated really well. I think
I think I'm the exact opposite of you on that.
see
I
I but
don't.
I think like she gives me the vibe of the unicorn, but other than that, I think the animation isn't like great, you know.
I
Well, you what's
don't. So the interesting thing about anime is that if you watch it looking specifically for how they animate animals, you will be disappointed. The way that animals are animated in anime, it doesn't really follow like the reference, and like visual reference equals
yeah.
approximation in animation. Like that's not really how they do it.
No, yeah, like when they did Bambi, like Walt got all those animals on the
Right.
lot. Even Lion King, they did Lion King, right? And
Yeah.
you watch how they
Mhm.
move. Just like Sleeping Beauty, we talked about they acted everything out and then they animated from that.
That's not that they don't know. No.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that like this creature is invented, so it's like a goat, horse, lion thing, deer thing.
Yeah.
So they can't really reference the entirety of it. But as a child, I cared none of this. I did not care. As a person who specifically went to college for
Went to
animation,
animation school.
yeah, I was disappointed by how they animated the unicorn. However, I was very impressed by the environment and the landscaping in this
Yes.
movie.
I think the landscaping is
Yeah,
quality. Yeah.
yeah, it's really good, very artistic. And I also really like the way that they animated the water,
Mm.
which is, I mean, that's super specific, but I think it was really well done.
And I think of the three Crag-verse films, because I know in Black Cauldron, we talked about how the world felt empty. And so, even though Last Unicorn and Sleeping Beauty both have a definitely a more limited cast compared to like a Beauty and the Beast, or you know, like there's still like they still give you the feeling that people live there. Like you have all the castle people in Sleeping Beauty, and in this you have like you see there's houses that she walks past, and bridges, and like the people that try and take her, the people that go to the carnival. So it doesn't.
Mhm.
It feels like a lived-in world.
Yeah.
Mm.
I didn't like how sexy they made the unicorn in unicorn form. That was a little much for
You
me.
think she's sexy?
She's got anime eyes. She's got waifu energy.
Well, because that's how when you animate something, it needs to have big eyes so children will connect with it.
She's too no.
Yeah.
I think they rounded her in the front too much. It's too much for me.
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I think it to me it's one of the more aesthetically pleasing unicorns I've seen in cinema. One of the more.
It is also very closely depicted
I'm
as
trying to think of another
like
unicorn.
close to the description of what they had in the book.
Yeah.
Like just the actual description where long neck, the long legs and a small head, and like I think probably they did their best to try and get it close to the description.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see the sexy.
I know. I
I think
honestly I
it's
think a
too
Disney or
sexy.
Pixar would have made it sexier. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah, but
They
I
would
don't
have.
like it.
You don't like it. All right.
I think it's because she becomes a love interest, and I was like, that prince is gonna fuck that horse.
Yeah, but he doesn't fall in love with her when she's a unicorn.
But he says, I love whom I love.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna be talking about some interspecies romance very soon.
Oh boy.
So yeah, again, and we see the Verbo. That's really we have the woods and we have the classic lair Verbo that we love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Characters. Who is our protagonist?
I think
I
it's her.
I think it's the
The
unicorn.
unicorn. It's the
Yeah.
Yeah.
unicorn.
I think it's a lot more consistent. I think like when she kind of goes into her like kind of
Yeah.
non-cognizant state, it kind of becomes more like
The Schmendrick and Molly.
yeah.
Shifts
But I
focus
think
a little bit.
yeah, but I think it's mostly consistently her.
Because she defeats the Red Bull at the end.
She starts the story.
Yeah, it's her journey. She's the one that has, like, everyone's learned something, but she's the one that's like taken the thing away. She has
the big change, yeah. And she has the biggest desire
to get
save
other
the
unicorns back.
No one else really gives a fuck about the unicorns except for her.
Which I think that is,
and they only care about the unicorns because they're like, oh, I've met a unicorn now.
Yeah.
So.
Which that's when people care about things. Oh, I know this.
Yeah.
Kind of person, I care about them.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of like it's not like the world's gonna end without the unicorns, but it's like the world will become a less magical place. Like there'll be less beauty in it, and you almost feel like that as you walk through the world that it's not super whimsical.
Yeah.
But people yearn for it because they go to that carnival. Yeah. So do we root for her? Do we like her? I do.
Yes.
Sure.
I think Mia Farrow's performance is so good. Honestly,
I think it's
like
good.
She sounds like unearthly, like, oh, like it's just like, yes, you can connect with her, but she's also fucking weird. But like
she's also kind of unreachable.
Yeah.
Too, at the same time. It's very interesting.
And that is what I like about the Now That I'm a Woman song is that when she's singing it, it sounds like she's like in pain and confused.
Which is pretty accurate.
Yeah. Like,
and that's how I feel as a woman.
Do we ship her and Lear?
No. And it's so my thing with Molly being like, why don't we just let her marry him? It's like, why would you do that when you know that like she's clearly not in the right mental state because of the human condition? And so like that's why I can't root for them, because like if they had spent more time like actually talking and her like learning and being like, oh, maybe being a human would be nice because I would experience love.
Yeah, mortality is what gives life meaning. That's the thesis of The Good Place, right?
Yes, exactly. So if we had something more like that where like she would be willing to give up mortality like for a moment because she loves him, but he's like, no, like you need to do your thing and be you, whatever. I think if there was more with him, I would, but
I don't even
all
really
I have is that
Lear.
song. I don't either.
He's not a very likable character.
He's no Prince Philip.
Yeah, he is. I mean, that's the point. He doesn't know what to say. He's less charming, whereas Philip is so like charming. But you also, I mean, I guess Lear does sacrifice himself for Amalthea.
Like
he has redeeming moments, but that doesn't mean that he's like a likable person.
Yeah, he doesn't win you over the way like I mean the unicorn does, or Molly, or as the last movie, Philip and Aurora, the way they kind of, and the fairies, where they kind of charm you.
I don't find their interactions charming. I find it disturbing because I know that she's falling in love under false pretenses because she's going through something very serious.
Which is funny because we still like kind of we ship Philip and Aurora even though their first interaction is a little unsettling.
Yeah. But
that's the power of framing.
Yes.
Framing and character performance, and the way characters are displayed to us.
And I think she remains aloof as a human, and so I'm like, I don't even know if she really does like him.
I think she's almost clinging to it as like a way to give her life meaning. As like, I'm this. I'm a girl. I'm not magical. I'm just this girl, and I can just marry him, and I don't have any problems. Great, good for me.
Yes, exactly. Like she's just like, this is what I should do because I am a girl. I don't know anything else, so I'm just gonna do this. Yeah. So no, we don't ship them.
We don't, and so it sounds like we don't love Prince Lear, and we don't. I think Schmendrick's fun, but he's not. I'm not like a stan. I'm not like love Schmendrick.
I like Schmendrick a lot. I like
again if we're doing the D&D party. If it was the three of us,
he's gonna be in the D&D party, it makes
Alyssa's
sense.
Schmendrick.
Am I Schmendrick?
Yeah,
Okay.
if we're the D&D party, if we're playing, because I guess there's only 3 really characters in this party. If we're
I'm
playing,
Molly.
you're Molly, I'm the unicorn.
Yes.
All right, I will be Schmendrick.
Like you would design that. Like, that was basically the character sort of you had in our campaign. Like that's a
It's
character,
true.
Allyssa, and the character in the D&D movie. I was like, that's who Allyssa would be playing if this was us in
Immensely
that party.
powerful magician sorcerer thing that just can't quite get a handle on it.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think Spendrick's fun, but Hannah's not a fan. Not a fan.
No, not a fan. Not a stan.
I like Schmendrick. I like him in the book. He has a lot of funny lines in the book too that didn't make it into the movie. The lines in the movie were delivered in a completely different way than I imagined in the book, and they still came off really great. So
yeah, I thought Alan Arkin did a good job. I actually thought his performance was there's like a not like a flatness, but there's just like a deadpan quality to Alan Arkin in general that I think actually works for that character because the rest of the characters are a bit more elevated.
Yeah.
And he's very grounded in that, like oh god, I'm engaged to a Douglas fir.
Yeah.
Like what?
Is that a
and
weakness
that's how he says it.
With Jeff's performance almost? Is that he's too flat and he doesn't have Jeff Bridges, the dude who plays.
I was like, Jeff? Mr. Bridges, Mr. Bridges. Dude.
Because like he doesn't have that kind of like play, like how Philip has the playfulness. Yeah, I think if I were remaking this movie, I would give a Philip or even an Aladdin-esque energy to Lear to make him very enthused and very like he's YOLO-y. You know, not like but like he's like just like this energy for life because like life is short, you know, to contrast with her like, you mustn't run from anything immortal, you know. Yeah. And then Molly, I love her.
Great character.
So good.
Yeah.
She's not flat at all.
Like, no, she's very dynamic.
Yeah.
She has this very rough and tumble personality when we first see her, and then she kind of softens, and she softens even more with the unicorn, and then she's like rough and tumble ready again, and so she's very dynamic. I don't really think anyone else is like that.
I think she changed the least though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's definitely a supporting
but she was already
character.
perfect.
Yeah, she's
Why did she need to change it all?
No, not at all.
And I do love this idea though that this like she's past the prime of her protagonist era, but now she still gets to be on this kind of adventure. That like life doesn't end when you're 25, you know, that like she's made mistakes, she's lived like life hasn't always been easy, but it's like what's inside that counts, and she has like a big tough but like a big heart, you know, and that's what she brings to the quest. Like she's smart, she has good ideas, and she cares. We have the cat too. We love the pirate cat.
Pirate cat. love
they're like, we're almost done with this movie, what do we need something to make it pop. Pirate cat.
With a peg
the cat
leg.
In the book is not a pirate. It is nowhere in the book that it's a pirate.
Adaptational change.
Yeah.
And our antagonists. The one thing about a Crag-verse film, I love talking about them like they're intended to be in the same universe. But like one thing about a Crag-verse film, they're gonna have a great villain. They're gonna have a big, spooky, scary villain. And Haggard, he's weird. He has it's a very clear motivation, even compared to like Maleficent and the Horned King, in that he just wants happiness. Not even like world domination. It's like he dominates the world,
and I think that's
in pursuit of his happiness.
And I feel like
that's kind of real.
He's not even dominating the worlds. Well, I guess if he's taking all of the unicorns, but
he's stealing a precious
specific aspect.
He's like a Jeff Bezos. But it's like he's exploiting the resources of the world and whoring them to himself. He's stealing the magic and the joy from the world just to make himself
happy.
He's still not happy.
That's scary. That like he's just like insatiable. He's insatiably sad.
By Debbie Ryan. No, he's insatiably. It's this endless pit, and you know we've talked about Jesus so much this episode. It's like that line in the Bible that if I have all the gifts in the world but I don't have love, like what am I but just like a loud
Right.
noise? Paraphrasing. I've never memorized the Bible in my life because I'm a fake Christian. I wasn't fully baptized. But but like this idea that like if you don't have like love, if you're not open to that, like it's all meaningless. No amount of unicorns will make him happy.
Although he does think the last unicorn will make him happy.
Yeah, he's like, I just need one more in that
Just
sea.
one more.
Well, then he would have all of them.
Yeah.
But then that's the thing, is like he doesn't even get to realize that, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
He does say that every time he looks into the sea and he sees them there and they're glittering and they fill me with joy.
But like,
I don't think he understands exactly what joy is.
Yeah.
But it fills him with something.
Yeah. And it's something that he thinks is a positive emotion.
It's like a drug.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like a
He's
drug.
tweaking.
He's tweaking. Ugh. You know what? I'm bringing it up. We can cut it. But so I think I mentioned this before. I read Mirror Mirror, the Gregory Maguire, author of Wicked, his Snow White adaptation. And there's a unicorn in there. It's a weird book. His other, like, I liked Wicked. I liked Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister. This one was weird. Anyways, this unicorn's there, and it like the horn touches him, and he like ejaculates instantly. And that's
Gross.
the vibe King Hagrid gives me. Like, that's what he gets the joy from looking at all the unicorns, because it seems very short-lived and it does not make him happy.
Yeah. I don't like
Castle
him.
walls are crusty. Mommy Fortuna is also a fun villain.
Yeah.
She's a twist on You're Just Wicked Witch. She's not just like, she has a business, you know.
She's a girl boss.
She's a girl. All these witches are like girl
selling
bosses.
Potions. She's like, yeah. I know I'm not a potions master. I'm not very good at doing curses, but you know what I'm good at? I'm good at running a show. I'm a theater girl at heart.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, her line, I would, what is it? I'd quit show business before I let you out.
Yeah. Yes. She's in show business.
So like she's a theater girly. You know, she found her niche and then it killed her.
Yeah.
So
like show business does.
But you know what? She's gonna be immortal.
She's immortal.
Worth.
That's so, like, I didn't even think about that when, like, that layer that she was just like I captured you. Like, I just thought she was just like,
the movie.
Pride.
I think part of it is because I read the book and I have that fleshing out.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like that's so much richer. It's very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
We have the red bullets, big and scary in red. I don't know if we have much to talk about.
Yeah, I don't even. Does it classify as a villain?
I would have preferred. It's a tool. I would have preferred to learn a little bit about where it came from. I'm not asking for a Beauty and the Beast 2017 remake version, but you know, like I would have liked a little bit about
like he made a deal or he did this thing or it's a manifestation of his unhappiness, like.
Yes.
Which are all things that Schmendrick brings up. Like, do you remember she asks Schmendrick about the Red Bull and he's like, well, I've heard so many things about it, and then he lists all of them.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
In the movie?
That's in the movie.
Yeah.
I missed that.
I forgot about it, but I do remember it now. Our themes. So Mommy Fortuna and the immortality. I think immortality and like the whole concept of like innocence and love and like that, you know, like I think the themes really shine in this, like the idea of like what is immortality and what is regret and love and like what makes us like gives life meaning. It's just, I think that's what keeps bringing me back to this movie. Sorrow versus regret. There is a little bit towards the end about the role you play in the story. But low-key, I don't really like when movies talk about like the role you play in a story. I think Once Upon a Time, the TV show, ruined it for me. And they called me and said, this is my happy ending. And I'm like, Snow White doesn't literally think her life has an ending. I don't know. It's weird. But anyways, what reaches out to me is like what to me is a bigger through line is that concept of like the loss of something and how that can be good and that can be bad. Like it's the world losing unicorns is a loss of innocence, and that can be restored. But like losing the innocence and learning to regret is like kind of a good thing.
Yeah, because in a way, she loses her own innocence as an immortal. Like she's never had to know these things,
Yeah.
and now she's lost her innocence in that. So she's more. I don't know. She's just more
well-rounded. There's more to her than there was. There's more. She's experienced things, and she's grateful for it.
Yeah,
And
she's a very unique unicorn in that. A unique immortal.
Which is why she brings so much to the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. I don't even know what's happening in the MCU. I can't even make a fucking joke. That's how behind I am on that lore. I can't even make a joke about what she's gonna do.
She's gonna be in the movie with Harry Styles. I don't know if they're even making a movie about that Harry Styles cameo character.
I'm sorry, there was a hair. I don't want to know.
Yeah, he's Thanos' brother, I think. Eros, who we all know is supposed to be the son of Aphrodite, a single mom who works 2 jobs.
Yeah, Reba McEntire.
Or an ancient primordial force older than all the other gods. Either one.
I can't.
I guess it's time for our final 2 questions. Are we there?
Well, I do want to say, because you have requested that I say this, the book and the movie fall in the same realm for me, and it's like perfect, the epitome of fantasy. And I believe I described it as being that it walks in the place between dreams and poems.
Yep.
And I think that is very accurate to this.
That's how this book would describe itself. Like it is this kind of like dreamy, like, yeah, it's not a fairy tale. It's definitely more in the fantasy aspect of the genre, but it pulls from fairy tale. It pulls from big it's like this kind of in-between story.
Mm-hmm. And very much the book itself is lyrical.
Yeah.
For sure. So if you enjoyed that, I would highly recommend reading it or listening to it.
And watching the movie, again, something like a lot of Crag-verse films, it feels like just one story in a big, immense world. Time for the big question. Was that your fantasy?
I guess I'll go first because I already know what your guys' answer is. I'm going to say no, it was not my fantasy because I did find it very boring. I was more enthralled by our conversation and what you guys have gotten from the film and what you have then passed on to me, like whether it's the nuggets from the book or just like the things that you're reading into it. I do not think I will ever be coming back to it unless I've got myself a gummy and some wine. But I do appreciate it as like a thing in fantasy because it is actually pretty different. And I think it succeeds on more levels than the Black Cauldron did.
Oh, like, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's eons above that.
Which they're only a few years. Never going back to. Yeah, they're only a few years apart. Well, I think there's a lot, like Black Cauldron is ultimately a very surface level film.
Yes.
And there's a lot going on in The Last Unicorn. Yeah,
for sure.
This was my fantasy. I think this is such an interesting story. And I love unicorns. I think there should be more media about them that explore their like history. And I just like that, just the depth of what's going on here. And I think that's why, because usually I'm not a fan of like, oh, there should be a live action remake of this. But what I think what I mean by that is there's so much going on. And I think if you just made it and we're like, yeah, this isn't for kids, like let's delve into all the depth of it and the darkness and the light. It's like there's more here.
Not dark enough for Guillermo del Toro, do you think?
I think Guillermo could actually do a good job with this.
Yeah, I think it might be just exactly perfect for him, actually.
This movie
because I could think of a live action of this with him.
Or even like a stop motion similar to the Pinocchio movie he just made. This has a similar tone, this world and this.
Okay.
This is 100% my fantasy. And it has been ever since like first grade. So
I just can imagine.
How did you come across the movie though? So Cullen talked about that in his life, but what about you? Like, how did you find it, or how did it find you?
I don't remember.
Interesting.
I talked to my mom, And she's like, yeah, I don't remember when you started watching that, but I watched it religiously, like all the way up until 6th grade. Probably I found it at the library because we were big library goers.
Same. Yeah.
But I don't actually remember the first time I watched it. I just remember watching it like every week.
I love that. I can imagine like child Allyssa like in the trees of Indiana being like, am I the last unicorn? Like, I just like see that.
Love that.
Did it happen? I don't know. I'm not denying anything.
And I guess what did we learn today? I mean, I knew this, but I think an important thing I would like to reiterate is you mustn't run from anything immortal. It attracts their attention.
I don't know. I think like everything, basically your guys' experiences of the movie and what you guys got out of it, I think is like the biggest takeaway for me, for sure.
You also learned about pirate patches.
Oh, I did.
Oh yeah.
I think I might just like dig into that. Not that I don't believe you, but I'm actually curious. I'm like, is that real? So now I gotta learn about it. Because
yes,
I'm kind of obsessed.
Go down that rabbit hole and keep me posted. What did I learn? I learned Hannah's reaction is pretty much exactly what I thought it was gonna be.
You learned that you know me very well.
Yes. And I learned that Cullen's music taste is still not as good as I want it to be.
I was gonna say you did not learn that. You learned that on Glee Boot.
I did. Okay.
Singing in the
I'm
Rain
cheating.
Umbrella mashup. No.
Iconic.
No.
Allyssa, is there anything you'd like to plug?
You know what? Watch Ted Lasso because I'm working really hard on it. And it's about to be the end of the season 3, and I think the end of the series. So yeah, y'all be thankful because there are a ton of people working a lot of overtime on this for you to watch it. So
to watch it on time too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Be grateful it's not delayed.
You know, if you like this dynamic, you can find our podcast Glee Boot, which is still sort of running because we haven't released our final episode.
By the time this comes out, we will be about a week and a half, 2 weeks from the final episode launching.
Fingers crossed. If all
now that I've said it on
this
podcast, now I feel like people are gonna be like, "Okay,
you're obligated."
We know,
yeah,
we know.
we put it in the calendar.
Yes.
Yeah, you can find that wherever you get your podcast, Glee Boot. You can find us on Instagram at Glee Boot Pod.
Yeah, and wherever you're listening to this, even on YouTube, you can find Glee Boot. But if you want to follow Not My Fantasy, you can find us at Not My Fantasy Pod.
Yes.
On Instagram and TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are watching us on YouTube, hi, hello. Cullen would like you to
smash that like button.
Smash the like button. Hit subscribe. Definitely hit subscribe. Leave us a comment. Boost our engagement. Let us know, have you seen this movie? And what's your unicorn name? Okay.
Yeah.
So I will be posting this. We'll be posting this on Instagram. So tell us what your unicorn name is when you tell us whether you've seen the movie.
You know, make sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple and write a little comment. Tell us what you like. Yeah.
Give us your unicorn name there too.
Yeah. Movies you want us to cover, you know.
Yeah. Let us know what you want us to, because we're starting to plan season 2.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's it from me. Back to you. In the wood.
In the wood, in the lilac wood, straight from Hannah at the Red Bull himself. Allyssa, thank you so much for coming on. I remember you were like, are you doing Watch Unicorn? You have to have me on that one. So I was like, yes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And tune in next week. So it is Mermay. And so we will be, talking about one of the most famous interspecies romances of all time, The Little Mermaid. We will be starting with the 1989 classic film, only a few years after this one came out. And we might be even visiting. I think they're remaking it. I don't know. Maybe we might talk about that at some point.
May have heard about that, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. We'll learn about things like what makes a creature that's not human, and what makes humans human. I'm going to talk about some of that history. All right, and we may be seeing a crossover is the Fairy Tale Fix podcast.
Ooh.
Tune in for that.
Bye.